Tony Dunn, ain't nothing to it but to do it, brother. Let's roll.
In a world where Carolina Panthers fans have an insatiable thirst for Panthers news and opinions, only one podcast roars ferociously. It's the C3 Panthers Podcast.
Welcome back in, Panther fans, to the C3 Panthers Podcast, brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com, where every Tuesday night we chop up the latest Panthers news and opinions from the fan perspective. Coming off a kind of a sobering, disappointing loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the road. There was an opportunity for the Panthers to go out there and continue to make this season meaningful in the last couple of weeks, but sadly they fell to Tom Brady, the GOAT, who just kind of always can keep the ball moving, and you just never enough points to get ahead, it feels like. But the Panthers are now eliminated from the playoffs, and we're kind of moving on to the next topics. And so much so that as I was prepping for this show tonight, every piece of information I ran across, actually, there wasn't a single piece of information related to the final game of the season. Not a single tidbit of anything that anyone is talking about as the Carolina Panthers in Week 17. Instead, it's looking ahead to the next coach, potentially, or will Steve Wilkes be named head coach? Will a new name, the hot name, Jim Harbaugh, the Carolina Panthers interested in Jim Harbaugh, continues to dominate the storyline. So we'll be talking about all of that tonight. And I do it with my wheelman, Cody Lashney. How you doing, my friend?
Tony Dunn, I'm doing good, man. Look, we were talking about preparing for the Saints to be our final game as we sharpen our swords before we enter a home playoff game for the Carolina Panthers. But that's not the case, man. That's not the case. And I think recent events will show you that the world doesn't really care what you want. Certain things are just going to happen to you. But like we always do, we at the C3 Podcast, we pick our heads up and we look out to the future, man. We're not going to stay around and sulk. We're going to talk about this team that we love and what it's going to take for them to get back on track. Rumors of a brand new coach with a very big name, man, it ought to be for a fascinating conversation tonight as to the future of the Carolina Panthers. But Tony, you already know that we're going to do it with the best damn Panther fans in all of YouTube. And you know them and love them. We got our guy, Drew, Anthony Price, Joey the Blind Panther, Dan Floyd, Chad Howell, G Baby in the house. What's up, G? John B. Jenkins, Josh, LOL, Locks Main, Making the Money, Michael Davis, Panther, Pickle, Panthers Are Kings, Roosevelt Mongo, Skunk 8 Mysteries, Spence 22, Y Big Jordan, Yonels, and the stats. Tony Dunn. Ain't nothing to it but to do it, brother. Let's roll.
Panther fans have been a little down in the dumps in just the day after losing to Tampa Bay yesterday. But as soon as that news came out, CK, on Monday, Jim Harbaugh, a report from The Athletic said that he is definitely interested in returning to the NFL and just waiting for the offer in many ways. So that all of a sudden has turned our attention. We got dumped on Sunday. We got dumped from the playoffs, but a girl walked by and batted her eyes at us, and all of a sudden we're back in the game.
We're back in the game, dude. Like, at the end of the day, if there's any truth to it, I know there's some excitement there. It's bittersweet because I think there were so many people who wanted to see Steve Wilkes be the guy, but there's also the aspect of it. I mean, how do you pass up a candidate like that? I still think it would give Steve Wilkes a short end of the stick. I wish he would have won that game because if he had, this is a totally different conversation. But we have to deal with the cards that were dealt with us, and unfortunately, that was one that was dealt for him. And as of now, we're dealing with the consequences of it.
I told you guys that that Wilkes was auditioning for his job. He was in his interview each week. Each Sunday was his interview for the head coaching job. And if he continued to perform as he did in so many ways, that'll be very difficult to just pick a guy over him. And it would take an important name, a name that had sway, a name that had a sort of sexiness to it. And the Harbaugh family, right? I mean, is that as a player, he was a quarterback, a longtime quarterback in the NFL. I mean, it was multiple years. I mean, he wasn't just like a one. I mean, and even if it's in a backup capacity or role, lots of NFL experience, lots of experience in both the collegiate and the NFL level at coaching, and lots of success. Then you look over to his brother at the Ravens, and, it's just kind of in their DNA. So that was the name that we knew that probably it was going to take to catch fire. And boy, it's caught fire with our discussion.
Yeah.
Before we move on to that, CK, The Last of Us, I see you've been playing that.
No, Days Gone.
Days Gone. Okay.
Yeah. I'd been playing a little bit of that.
The Last of Us, also a video game, correct?
Yes, yes, it is.
And it's about to be a brand new show.
Yeah, that's why I was bringing it up.
Show on HBO Max that's about to come out soon.
Yeah. All right. So we'll have something to talk about there. Greg is back in the saddle. Boy, we missed you, Greg. I hope you had a happy holiday. And look, he's got to hold his mic up like an old school reporter.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking about. Is that's going to be like old school reporting. I'm doing all right, man. I'm back.
Happy New Year.
It's Happy New Year. Am I coming in too loud?
No, okay? You sound perfect.
Okay, no. Fantastic. I'm not even thinking about the coach. Like I was with my friend the other day watching this game, and I was telling him, we were up 14-0, and I was like, dude, watch out for Carolina. 4 out of the last 6. We've been an offensive machine for the last few games. I was like, we're sneakily coming. We're like sneaking into the playoffs here. And as soon as I said that, we fell apart. And it's just it's just like I don't know. Carolina does this to me every year, but you know what? I had fun watching football for the last few weeks, and I haven't had that in a long time in Carolina.
Yes.
I really haven't. And that was kind of my thing. Is I've really enjoyed football because this felt like something was worth it. Like after we lost that game, I didn't even care about watching anything else. Like we had football on in the background the rest of the day, but then we started playing Dice Throne, which is a fantastic game. If y'all ever play that, phenomenal dice game if you like games. But man, it sucks where we're at, but at least I enjoyed games this year. I had hope. Like I had legitimate hope that we could go into the playoffs on a roll and be a team, that at least made the playoffs. Maybe we shouldn't have been there based on our record, but I can seriously look back on probably 4 or 5 plays that would change our record completely this year.
Yeah.
So we weren't that terrible of a team.
It was an interesting season. I think Nick Montero was the one who brought this up first, and maybe a cat call or something, is that regardless of like the outcome of whatever, we're 6-10, probably be 6-11, could be 6-11, maybe 7-10. It was a more interesting season, or more, more. It kind of gripped us more than anyone expected it to after the cruddy start. So a lot of storylines, and look at this is like, right away, man, we're not even interested in week 17 at this point. We're interested in
the draft.
And or the coaches. It's like Harbaugh, D'Amico Ryans, like, all of a sudden,
and like, all of the rumors surrounding it too. And we're about to cover it all here in a minute, but the name D'Amico Ryans. Obviously, we still have a conversation about Steve Wilkes and whether he will whether he will or will not get that chance, whether it's deserved, whether it's another example of institutionalized racism in the coaching position. There's really so much to talk about. It really is never a dull moment if you're listening to the C3 Panthers podcast.
Don't forget, the number is 252-228-5098. That's 252-228-5098. Go ahead and smash the thumbs up button and be a part of our community. You can find us on Twitter. You can download the podcast on Spotify, iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcasts at. Be a part of the conversation. We've built this great community, and as we continue to move on to what is the off season, we're going to need you guys to lock arms with us as we finish out our 10th year as a podcast, which is incredible. It's kind of bizarre that I still am stubborn enough to keep doing this every week in so many
Because you
ways, and
love
it's
us.
awesome.
That's what it
I
is.
do. You know what? I love it. It's just you know what? I couldn't imagine not doing it. It's just kind of
At this point
like
in time, yeah, it'd
eating
be weird if you
breakfast.
stopped.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Let's go ahead and pop into the show. And what do we got up first? Obviously.
Yeah, so look, we wanted to take just a minute to talk about this because, it's quite literally what's happening in football right now. We're not going to spend too long talking about it, but, I felt that it would be remiss if we didn't
Right.
speak about what happened last night. If you and, I'm pretty sure everyone knows by now, Demar Hamlin, safety for the Buffalo Bills. He took a shot from T. Higgins, a player I've known and loved for a very long time. And
He kind of laid it on him too. It wasn't like he took a shot. I mean, he tackled T. Higgins.
Yeah, he did, and T. Higgins threw his body into it. It was a football play. If you were looking at it, it was pretty run of the mill. Like you've seen a million different tackles worse than what happened to Demar Hamlin. But man, I'm telling you, as I was watching it, and I was watching that game just like everybody else, it was truly one of the most nerve-wracking, terrifying moments I've ever had watching a football game. And part of the reason for that wasn't necessarily anything that was being said on the broadcast, it's what wasn't being said. Because as you see him on the ground, you start to see all these other technicians from both teams running out there on the field, and they're like frantically working on him. Then you mix in the fact that they go to commercial like 4 or 5 times in a row, and you start to see the faces of Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, and everybody is just, they look like they just saw a ghost, and it was a terrifying moment, man. Obviously prayers up for Demar Hamlin and his family. It was just a crazy thing, man. I've never seen anything like it.
No.
I truly hope that him and his family are okay. And I don't know what they're going to do. If, in my opinion, I think the NFL is probably going to declare this a tie, because I don't know what you can do. It's so late in the season, and it's between two of the better teams that are playing for something. I
Right.
honestly think that you're just going to have to chalk it up to a tie, and then move on from there.
I tend to disagree. I thought of this, and I have a solution to it. And it's not ideal for the NFL, but it's way better than, because this had such major implications. This is a bye week for the Bills that's at stake. This is a potential division game against the Ravens next week for the Bengals. Right. So this is such an important game. There is no scenario that exists where they cannot play this game. So here's my suggestion was. A lot of times the suggestion, people have said, well, they can play on a Thursday night and then maybe play on a Tuesday night the week after to try to offset. That's still unfair to the Bills. It's even unfair to the Bills this way that I'm going to explain that we should probably do this, but this is what might have to do. You push the playoffs back 1 week. Now, not the Super Bowl, because you cannot touch the Super Bowl on the date that it's at. Like it is, like that is such a locked in date. You can't touch that. But we know from the conference championship to the Super Bowl, there is a 2-week span. Okay. So we push the playoffs back 1 week. We let the Cincinnati Bengals and the Bills play the week after the final week of make it a 19th week of the season. And it's still unfair to the Bills and the Bengals, because that means that everybody who has a wild card gets a bye week, and the Bills or the Bengals might not get that. But at the end of the day, it's the difference between, finding a solution to this and not. And I think that's the best solution at this point in time.
Can I ask, what was the score of the game when it happened?
Bengals 7, Bills 3.
Yeah.
So you would have to at least start the game off like that, right?
You would start. 0-0. You would start it at the one. It would be the first quarter with 5 minutes and 38 seconds left in the game, and you'd put the ball at the exact spot and just have everything go the same way.
I mean, yeah. What you're saying, it's tough to talk about this in this situation, but it is the reality of the situation, and you're right. That is almost the most fair way to take care of it. But this game has to be played out. I agree. There's too many implications with this game. It has to be played out.
I don't think they are. And one is that if the Chiefs win this week, then they're the ones that get the bye in that division.
Yep.
And really, it's the Bills and the Bengals fighting for the 2 and the 3. So it's like, man, one of them you could coin flip, you could do Rochambeau, you could do break paper rock. You know what I'm saying? If like that 2 and 3 is such a big deal to you at that point.
No, the thing is they're playing for the bye. They're like right now the Bills.
No,
are
there's
fighting
only
for the
one
number,
bye week.
No, they're fighting for the number 1 seed.
Right,
If
number
the
1
Chiefs
seed.
win, they can't
And the
get
Bengals
No,
are
they
fighting for
do.
the AFC
The Bills,
North.
the Bills have the tiebreaker because they beat the Chiefs earlier this year.
No, if the Chiefs lose this week, then it is a problem. But if the
Right.
Chiefs win, they have a better record.
No,
I think
no,
so.
no.
That's what I heard
Depending,
today.
it just depends on if Buffalo would have won or not.
If the
Buffalo
Bills
would have
won out,
that
they
game,
were the
then
number 1 seed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But here's the
There's a
problem,
lot at
CK.
stake.
Think of the conversation around Thursday night football.
Mm-hmm.
Is that there isn't enough time for teams to get healthy, all these different things.
Exactly.
But even with the way that you're doing it, shuffling around a game that big, then expect them to go right into the playoffs right after that and pushing games around. I don't see logistically how these players would be able.
They would have to do it every. They do it every week.
Well, let me ask you, Cody. If you were a player and they left it up to the players, what do you think the players would vote? Do you think the players would vote to have a tie, or the vote would to be able to play and have a chance to win that game, based on what
I
you said?
honestly think that I mean, what they would want to do is if they can get a bye and have enough time, like what CK is talking about, maybe they decide to play. But other than that, I think especially the Bills, knowing how concerned they are for Demar, I kind of just think you chop to both the Bengals and the Bills, just chalking it up to a tie. And I know that that's not a great scenario for either one of them. I mean, the Bengals hadn't secured their division yet. Technically, the Ravens are still alive. It was an
Right.
important game, but I just honestly know, and knowing how we also haven't talked about the PR nightmare that the NFL.
Hey, can I actually
through.
say this, bro? I'm gonna go ahead and tell you this: is you might as well go ahead and cancel the C3 Panthers podcast right now, because all you guys have just done is talk about the matchup and not talked about Demar Hamlin and how we all need to pray for him and all of this. And
Well, the thing is
look,
that
this has really put me in a weird place with the internet.
right.
And
But
I'm going to take an unpopular position tonight, I think.
Yeah. Well, Tony, I'm right there with you. I'm of the mind, like, here's the thing, everybody, and I want to address one thing. KT got it right. I was about to bring this up. There's no way in hell the Bills would be willing to give away home field advantage throughout the entirety of the playoffs for the just to take a tie. I know that in hind, like it's in a perfect world that would be the way to go about it. There's no shot the Bills do that. There's no shot that the Bills want to give away, because I mean you're talking about giving KC home field advantage in the conference championship, and you just can't do that. You got to bring a conference championship to Buffalo, and that's what they're going to be fighting for. That's why they will not forfeit this. They will not accept a tie here. But second, there are so many people upset with the NFL for not canceling this game within 5 minutes, 10 minutes of the
or
CPR.
no, just even if you don't have the proper response as a person,
right,
they're ready to.
But here's the thing that I tend to err on the side of. Okay, there is a man on the field that his life is in jeopardy, right? But there is no facts. Nobody knows anything. The NFL didn't know anything. The teams didn't know anything. They were waiting to get word. He hadn't seen the doctors. He was on the way to the hospital. And then when they finally found something out, they made the decision, you know what? We need to postpone, because it wasn't great news that they'd heard, right? They had heard that he wasn't breathing on his own, that he was like, there was none of that. And so it's okay for the NFL to be in a holding pattern and say, let's wait and see what happens. Because what you're talking about you've got to keep in mind, yes, that man's life is in the balance. But there's also, and this sounds super greedy of me, but you've got guys know how the world works. If you've and this is a crude way of looking at it, but I'm gonna go about it this way. But there's people in those stands that have made that an entire vacation. I had a buddy who traveled from down here in Virginia up there to go see the Bills play. Stayed in a hotel, had PTO, made the whole trip, right? So the NFL not only has to think about the people in the field, they've got to think about the 60,000 people in the fans. They got to think about the amount of money their advertisers paid them. They've got to think about how they're going to handle this scheduling debacle. Like the people that are shitting on the NFL, I understand the urge to do that. I really do, because they've done a lot of things wrong.
Quickly, to be honest.
Exactly. Well,
I don't think that there was. I don't think people are shitting on the NFL.
They are. They're
saying that the NFL should have fan responses. And I want to talk about this. Is first, let's just go ahead and acknowledge this. This is a tragedy.
Sure.
Right. Is
absolutely
when someone is hurt in a way that's unexpected. Right. So if you get a knee injury in football, you expect a knee injury.
Right.
Right. Like, I mean, you don't expect every play to end in a knee injury, but those are things that are kind of run of the mill type injuries in the sport.
Sure.
It's the horrific, the kind of anomalies that are jarring. And this one is especially tragic and jarring because you have a man who is in peak physical condition, 24 years old, suffers some sort of injury that no one knows really how to diagnose at that moment. You know, I mean, I'm sure the people that were working on him knew the symptoms and the things that were going on. But, you know, the fans, the people watching on TV are waiting for the thumbs up, the guy being carted off, and we just want to see the thumbs up, and then we forget about it, and it goes on, right? And these players saw, obviously, the individual was not breathing, had to be resuscitated, right? And CPR was administered. And so this is a tragic event because anytime anybody is hurt or something bad happens is a tragedy, but this is one that is especially kind of, just abnormal.
Right.
And I think the one thing is that, I hope the best for this individual, right? I hope Demar recovers. I hope that the best, I hope even if he can't recover fully, that whatever the recovery is especially the best possible scenario. The thing that is, it's just, I don't know how to respond is that we just talked for 10 minutes about what the implications were this with the NFL, with the playoffs. And that's because that's what the podcast is like. That's the whole point of our discussion is football discussion. But there was an immediate pitchforking of people who just didn't say prayers up, this type of mantra.
Skip Bayless.
Well,
Dude, Skip
and
Bayless
I think that Skip Bayless,
eviscerated.
the problem is that even his tweet to me was not as ridiculously insensitive as people suggest it was.
It's just,
to me, his
Bayless
apology and his fake cry today was ridiculous. Is to the point. All I'm trying to say is this.
Yeah.
I'm not all I'm trying. I'm trying to say a lot of things. I just want people who condemn others for not praying enough, not acknowledging tragedy enough, or whatever. Whatever that mindset is, to where you're ready to social media lynch them in a way. I just want to know, do you really if my mom gets mad to that degree, I would understand. This woman prays the rosary every day. She believes in the full power of prayer. I don't like these people that I know aren't praying and aren't doing this and aren't to condemn other people for not caring enough.
So,
and it's like and I don't know if it's like to the level what you've said in the past, Cody, is virtue signaling, whatever it is that this is a terrible situation. a terrible situation. But it's just the internet is a bizarre place for me, and where we all have to react the same exact way.
Or you're the opposite of a good person.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know?
I agree with you, Tony. I think one of the reasons, and just speaking broadly here, one of the things that happened is that it appears as though the narrative from a surface level was that both head coaches from both football teams and their teams
Oh no, we're
themselves
losing you.
did. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
That
I can
both
hear
of
you.
the
Maybe it was my internet.
that both of the football teams basically didn't feel comfortable after, I mean, ostensibly watching a man almost die on the football field. And it was their friend, their brother, their teammate. You know, we really don't know how much players get traumatized by these types of moments. More importantly, nobody saw what all the players saw. Like the
Mhm.
They saw him
commercials and the
getting
TV.
CPR. That's what they
Right,
saw.
but
They
even
saw
more
an
than that, though,
individual getting CPR.
right. But even more than that, though, like seeing how, if you were on the field, you got to see an entirely different show than what was shown on the ESPN broadcast. And the reason why I think all the people are upset is because for a minute, Joe Buck said they were going to go back to football. That I mean, it showed Joe Burrow
I'm
throwing the ball.
I'm
They
a
were
little
going to
I
surprised
think
they
that's his
didn't.
job.
they
though,
were going to
right?
have
Like,
like a
I'm a
five.
little surprised they didn't, to be
They were
honest.
going to have a 5
Honestly, the
minute
fact that they didn't,
warm up period and then go back to playing football. And it was collectively the coaches and the teams that said, "Nah, we're not doing this," and they collectively decided to go back to the locker room. So I think that's where all the pitchforks are coming from. That the NFL was too insensitive in the way that they handled the situation.
I don't
Now,
think they were at all. I
but
think the fact that they
now they're
immediately
calling it back.
said that this game is, Joe Buck said that, but there was no indication
right.
that they said the people in the stands didn't know what was going on. I heard a guy who was in the press box on the radio today said they didn't have an announcement. Like everybody's just kind of watching, and then the teams leave, they come back, and no one really knows. And I think what CK was saying, the holding pattern is, I tell you this, is I think that if anything, I thought the fact that the NFL didn't, I thought they were kind of feeling it out.
right?
And the fact that they didn't it was kind of bizarre in some ways too, is that the Buffalo Bills defense walked back out on the field. Like they were going, is that, you had, I don't know. These are one of those injuries. It's like a neck injury. It's something where, it's just such a horrific thing.
Right.
I'm just a little surprised today that, I won't say surprised. That's not the right word. It's just is that immediately it was, somebody has to be at fault here.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even think the NFL did anything wrong. Like, I felt like they didn't announce anything prematurely. They didn't do anything.
And now the NFL is saying that whoever told that to Joe Buck, that they were going to have 5 minutes or whatever and then be play, that the NFL never said that to anyone. Like the NFL is actively walking it back. And the NFL, when they put a statement, they're like, the NFL's on-hand CPR staff and medical crew resuscitated him, basically saying all this money that we pay for paramedics and stuff to make sure that it's safe, that this is why. This is why we do it. Yeah, I mean, my last thing I'll say about it is just that I hope he ends up being okay. I know 9 minutes to be on the field for 9 minutes and to to be resuscitated that long, dude. I don't know. I mean, he really is still in very critical condition. Everybody, if you're a prayer, if you're not, whatever you need to do, send your positive energies out to Demar Hamlin, and hopefully he comes back and is able to play at some point.
Absolutely.
The one thing I did want to, or I heard Dr. David Chow, who is former Chargers sports doctor. He's been on the podcast before, and now he's kind of made his niche on the internet and media as being the sports doctor guy that comes on everything when something happens. And he said something, and he was very cautious in a way he said it, as so as not to make it sound snarky or anything like that. But he was saying if there was a place where you want to quit breathing,
It's right there.
it's
in Cincinnati.
in an NFL stadium where you have 40 professionals right there ready. So someone has a heart attack in their house and someone doesn't find them, or think about the time it takes for paramedics to arrive and these types of things. And we don't know exactly what to do. They said cardiac arrest, how it's induced, or different things we don't know. Yes, and I do, as you know, I hope you wish no one gets hurt and everything like that. It is tragic that this has happened, and the implications for football, I'm sure, for the media and for us, are something to talk about. I'm sure that his family and himself and people who truly love him and care about him care very little about that.
Can I tell you
Right.
this, and we can move on? The NFL Players Association will have an ace when they go to that CBA negotiation next round.
Well,
But
okay, can we
is that
mention
really
that is that like this was not in any way. All right, actually, I'm not gonna make any
Hold on, I want
declarations.
to address why I say that, because I know what's about to come out of Greg's mouth. This not saying that the NFL did anything wrong. The NFL did nothing wrong. The reason, in my opinion, I see nothing that the NFL did wrong in this scenario last night. Again, this is just from the optics that I see. Outside of what rumors are out there and what people are saying, I have no ability to verify that, nor does anybody else on the internet. But the reason I say that the CBA will be heavily in favor of the players next go round is now that this has happened, it's no longer just a matter of my knees are, going to be impacted for the rest of my life. My ability to be able to remember things are going to be impacted. Now it's my life. These players' lives are on the line, right? And so they're going to be able to have that card, regardless of whether it's something that you believe it's such a rare thing or not. It is a card that they can play, and they will have that option.
I can see what you're saying, and I'm not trying to take away from the player at all, or the players, what's happened, in this incident at all. But I don't think that one incident is enough to make a change, like make a change that big. That's like saying that because somebody got in a car wreck, you should ban driving.
I think that
realistically, it is
that-
like how I hate to be that crude about it, but how often does this happen?
I think
Not enough,
CK is
not,
right.
not
No,
enough to where they
CK is
should be able to
right
use
that
as an
it-
ace
Yeah.
in the hole.
CK is right that this is leverage. It's just leverage,
Right.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
In
And
one
it's
way,
major leverage.
the only thing that I
it may
thought
be,
that
but
I thought it was, I was listening to one radio show today, and Doug Gottlieb asked the guy who was on the call or something like this, who was somebody who was informed on, involved in this, and former player and stuff. And he goes, "Is there anything the NFL can do to increase player safety?" And like, I felt like he just asked it to ask, like he felt like he had to ask it. The guy just ultimately said, "Is like, if we want to really talk about," and he didn't say this, but this is what I was thinking. It's like, if we really want to talk about player safety, this is not the injury to highlight.
Right.
Like, I mean, because there's nothing
This
you
is a
can.
fluke.
Yeah, I mean,
This
it's
is
like
a
even the
fluke.
hit was not malicious. I mean, he was the one hitting.
It was textbook. It was everything that happened was the thing that happened was such. I don't know if you guys have heard anybody explain what happened, like at least from the outside looking in. But if you look on the outside and you look in, basically, I talked to a buddy of mine who is a coach for a lacrosse team for a university. And he was saying the only injury they have to worry about is what this dude had to deal with. Basically, when you take a lacrosse ball at 60 miles an hour to the chest, if it hits your chest at the exact right moment, meaning within milliseconds of a certain part of your heartbeat,
It jumps.
it causes this, cardiac arrest.
Mhm.
And so that's at least from the outside looking in, that looks like what has happened. It's such a rare thing to have happened, but that's kind of the scenario. T. Higgins did nothing wrong. Demar did nothing wrong. We are in a scenario where this is just, and this is the thing that's why it's so tough, because everybody is trying to blame somebody, right? Somebody's trying to blame T. Higgins on the internet. Somebody's trying to blame the NFL because they're trying to start. People in the middle of tragedy, people have to look for somebody to lay the blame on. And it's okay for nobody to be at fault. It's okay for that to be the case. It's okay for there to be an accident that is not anybody's doing. And it's okay to not have somebody to look at as the evil villain. Everybody did what they could last night. You have the coaches, the players, and the NFL. Everybody did what they needed to do to make sure people had their mental health in check, to make sure they were physically okay. And they had, if you want to talk about something, let's talk about, if you want to, condemn the NFL, let's also praise the NFL for having the resources at an NFL game to save this guy's life.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay. So stop sitting there and pretending like the NFL is the villain in this case. And remember, everybody here is human being, and they saved a dude's life by having these resources on the field.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, man. You don't have this play in your playbook. Like, you really don't. Like, you put contingencies in there for stuff like this to happen, which luckily saved his life or helped save his life. But you don't plan for this to happen, and you don't have a plan for. I mean, like I said, how often does this happen?
Here's my final word, and
I don't even know what happened. Like, what exactly
final
happened?
word, and that we're gonna give out. We got to shout out these super chats here.
Yeah,
I just interested this as I came on, not wanting to talk about this, to be honest, because I, kind of fearful in some ways, or trepidate. Like, there's some trepidation for me about like how people, if you say the wrong thing, you do any of this. I really read the room differently than CK though. CK is really believed that a lot of the angst has been taken out on the NFL. And as I've been looking, and maybe it's just what I've been reading, what I've been looking at, maybe it's what's been focused on. It's been people about reactions. It's people's reactions. Skip Bayless being the highlight of this. But if you look at Jason Whitlock, like all these, it's like, now people are interested in, are you reacting right to the event?
right.
So that's interesting that I like this, is because it brings on the diversity of opinions here. And so it's nice to hear a different angle than just looking at it from the way I look at it. Cody, let's shout out. Let's remind everybody you can support the C3 Panthers podcast by smashing the thumbs up button, subscribing, being part of the conversation. We want to remind you, too, that we are not football experts. We're just expert football fans. We're talking about the game of football and the Carolina Panthers from a fan perspective. And I hope that you guys just respect, if you're listening, that our dialogue is we're just trying to be honest and just have as meaningful as conversation as we can. And we'd love to hear your opinions. You can do that by calling in at 252-228-5098. Go ahead, Cody.
Yeah, and look, so after this, we're getting straight into the coach talk. We wanted to talk about this first, but then move on. We got over $25 from our man, God of Blackness, man. He said Skip made an observation like Kanye. Yeah, he agrees with you. It's like maybe it was a little bit overblown. Again, I know I don't want to have a discussion about this, but just so that way we're reading everybody's chats. Wondered if it was Vax, which, by the way, he was. $5. A lot of people think that could be to blame. So again, that's above my pay grade. I don't know, man. I don't think the other too much about that, man. But and to hang on, we got one more. Lux man tried to donate a little bit earlier. I think he said it didn't go through well for him. But Lux, we appreciate you, brother. Happy that you're joining the show. But yeah, I hear you, man. People are ready to start. This has been the topic all day, and people are kind of ready to move on from this and get back to business as
well. Yeah, let's focus this on the Carolina Panthers, man. Remember, this is the C3 Panthers podcast, the longest running Panthers podcast, and we're here talking about the Carolina Panthers from the fan perspective. Cody, yesterday, I think it was yesterday, as soon as I saw the story come out on The Athletic, it was only 2 paragraphs. It wasn't even a story. It just said this: Jim Harbaugh, interested in returning to the NFL, would be happy, would take an offer or something like that, just ready to get back to business. So anyway, go back to this. Is I knew as soon as you can go back to the previous one. Is that as soon as I knew that popped out, I was like, "Yep, this is going to be the news cycle." And then today, all the talk has been about the Carolina Panthers coaching staff not named Steve Wilkes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Good, Cody.
Well, I was just gonna say that we heard this a few days ago, and we even said on the post game show that the game against Tampa Bay, for all intents and purposes, it was the litmus test. If Steve Wilkes, had a chance at being named head coach, he needed to win that game against Tampa and have us competing for the NFC South Championship. Damn near as soon as that happened, we hear sources saying, an informed source says at this point it is unlikely that the next Carolina Panthers head coach be Steve Wilkes. The same source tells me that David Tepper has an affinity for 49ers defensive player D'Amico Ryans, which is funny to me because it seemed like all the other news coming out until this point was that David Tepper wanted a young, offensive-minded head coach. So that
if you go back to where minimize us here is.
Yeah.
So when did this tweet come out? Because I think I saw that this was January 2nd at 3. This was yesterday at 3:58. In fact, I woke up this early morning. I messaged this guy, Mark Ryan, by the way, and tomorrow, a little plug for us, shameless plug, is I have to pre-record it tomorrow, but I will drop it tomorrow night as a bonus segment on the beat check. But I'll be talking with Mark Ryan about this. But when this came out, I had just read that story yesterday about the same day about Harbaugh, and then I read this and I was like, really? Now it's not about. So this was just alongside of that story. It's like, wait a second, not interested in Wilkes. Then they dropped D'Amico Ryans. Then you got to think, why do they drop that name? Is this like the way to continue to cater to the Rooney Rule in some sort of way? And then all of a sudden the shift, the zero, this conversation has been about D'Amico Ryans, and all today it's been about Harbaugh.
Yeah. I mean, the happened with Harbaugh, fairly, it happened today. It kind of started yesterday, and we're going to get to some of the rumors around it. But before we jump headlong into the Harbaugh conversation, I wanted to bring up one more thing from Steve Wilkes, and then I wanted to talk about Steve Wilkes for a second, because one of the things that was mentioned in his press conference was he basically said Coach Wilkes was asked if after looking at tape he would have been more aggressive and gone for it on 4th and 1 in minus territory. He says it wouldn't. He said a few interesting things, but I'll let you listen to the words of Wilkes.
4th and 1, I think it was 4th and 1. Looking back, would you have still punted in that situation or maybe been more aggressive?
Well, when you look at the opportunity, let me go ahead a little bit. When we had 4th and 2, we're in plus territory. I went for that. There was 2 opportunities where we were not in plus territory that I did not, and I wouldn't change it because I think one, we were up 7-0, and the other one was 14-0. But when you have number 12 on the other side, when he can, he's already in field goal range, I felt pretty comfortable trying to, pin those guys back inside the 5 and let our defense go to work. All right. Let me back also into those 2 plays. It was 3rd and 1. We ran the zone read. We had the numbers outside with the count. Sam should have threw the ball out to Laviska. We'd have had the first down. He had the read inside where he pulled it, and we didn't get it. The next one was Chuba on a draw play, and he got to get his feet up and make one guy miss, and we got the first down. So great effort by him, but we got to find a way to get that extra yard.
So do you guys agree with his of that situation of choosing to not be aggressive in that moment? I hear what he's saying. It's a coulda, shoulda, woulda. Maybe if Sam did what
hindsight's always 20/20, dude.
Yeah. If
Right.
he got the ball to Laviska Shenault, then maybe he would have, maybe it would have been a positive play. but he did double down on the decisions that he made.
While
It's
at the
still
same
not my
time,
answer, but yeah. Go ahead.
almost throwing Sam Darnold under the bus a little bit there, though.
Yeah. Go
Look,
ahead, Greg.
I've been a supporter of Wilkes to be the guy from the beginning, and
I didn't like this answer.
I think it's unfair after this game saying that if he didn't win the NFC South, that he's not the guy.
Right.
I think if you give a guy a 1-5 team and you say if you don't win the division, you're not the guy, that's unfair. I get there's got to be a cutoff line. There's got to be some point where you've got to say, this is what you got to do or you're not that guy. But I think winning the NFC South is one. Look, Steve Wilkes didn't lose this game for us this week. One guy lost this game this week for us, and it wasn't Steve Wilkes. Okay, and he's lost a few games for us this year.
Who is
We're going
it?
to talk about that later, I'm sure. So
we
there's
talked
still
about
people who
it a
defend this
ton on
guy.
the post game. You can go ahead and say his name.
Yeah, so
E.J.
Henderson lost
Henderson.
this game for us. Yeah, like hands down lost
All
this
right.
game. But
I want to follow up on that with. Go ahead, Griff. Finish your thought, and then
I was just going to say it's unfair for Wilkes to be. I feel like to be judged. I feel like he's going to be judged from this point on as because he didn't win this game, he's not the guy.
No.
But you've got to look at the entirety of what he's done this season. He made me excited for football again as a fan. This coach
here's the
made
thing,
me
though,
excited as a
is
fan.
that in some this is in some ways very much analogous to a position that you guys hate that I take all the time on this podcast, and that is that kickers don't lose games, they win games. And
Right.
Steve Wilkes hasn't lost this job. By not winning the playoffs, he hasn't. How did you phrase it? Is not doing.
Well, I mean,
Didn't earn it, didn't get it. Here's the
just
thing.
by having talking of the coaches
Right.
immediately after he
Is
lost
you're
his
right.
game,
Is that look is what Wilkes has demonstrated and proved to us is that he's capable, competent to be a head coach in the NFL.
Right.
But here's the thing: is the question is he? It's not when you go and get interview for a job. Multiple people are competent and capable of doing the job. It's just who are they going to pick?
this is true.
And Wilkes,
right.
it's not what he didn't. It's not what he did do was wrong. And not even that. As like all I'm trying to say is this: is if he wins this game, he's the head coach.
Right.
If
Well,
he
and that's
beats, if and not
it
he,
just seems unfair.
he's not going to win this game. If the Panthers, if it just went the other way,
It just
if it
seems
would have
unfair,
just had
yeah.
a different outcome, if CJ Henderson would have batted one down, play, it doesn't matter. The whole point of the fact of the matter is that was an L at the end of the day.
Sure.
If it was a W, you would take this Harbaugh news that's coming around to D'Amico Ryans and you would say, we don't really care about it.
So
And
what happens then if
Wilkes would have said he earned, he would have taken the job instead of waiting. And it's not that he waited. It's just now it's not certain. And in fact, now he has, it's like just less, the wins are at in his face now instead of in his back, at his back.
Well, the
My
fairness
issue-
aspect of it. Oh, go ahead.
Okay.
Greg.
Okay, I was just say my last point is my issue is how wishy-washy we are on it. Like if he wins this game, then he wins the job. Okay, cool. Well, if he wins this game, we still haven't won the NFC South. We're in the lead with one game left, but we could still lose. So what happens if he wins this game and then we lose next week and Tampa Bay wins?
I think
Does
you
it-
have.
do
It's
we-
just
are we back
so
on the
much
train if he
more
doesn't
of a-
have this
Well, how
job?
about this? Is now if it's a lot more endearing of a discussion to
Right.
say he has earned it after this win, and then you didn't win against the Saints, and it just didn't fall your way. Or what I'm saying is that now week 17 is completely meaningless.
True. I just mean that if we win next week, then we're in the same spot that if we would have beaten Tampa Bay and lost to New Orleans.
I want to make it clear.
So-
I think it's fair to say that that he would have had a better opportunity. So if Steve Wilkes had won this game, his name is still at the top of the list. How about that?
Right. If
Right?
they make the playoffs, what about
right.
that?
If they make the playoffs, he's got to be the guy.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is him losing this game didn't remove him from the equation, right?
Right.
It just
I agree.
all it did was it put him in the list of people who are going to be interviewed. That's it.
Put a crack in the ice, basically.
If you're watching a horse race, is that he was out he was a long shot horse that got out to a good start and maintained it through the third lap or whatever. But
And just
down the
lost steam at the
stretch,
very end.
yeah, but down the stretch, it's not even that he's not running as fast as, but the other horses are just closing in. That's it. We don't know what the answer is going to be.
Yeah,
He's got a seat at the table, and that's the main thing. Like that's
yeah. As long as
I
he's
think
still
his
got
name.
that, yeah.
I think his name should be considered. And listen,
Definitely.
I was very high on Steve Wilkes, and I still am. You know, things that we have been saying for weeks. It's not like just after this Tampa Bay loss that all of those things are null and void.
Right.
It is so true that we would like to see Steve Wilkes with an off season to be the head coach, to build this thing up in the right direction, and to actually get the chance that he's never truly gotten before. And I understand all the people that say, "Hey, well, you're never going to." He's never going to prove himself under these scenarios unless you give him the opportunity to do so. And I absolutely understand that, man. I just, if I'm a betting man, I would say that the guy that we're getting ready to talk about is probably higher up on the list of David Tepper's priorities. And as much as we might want Steve Wilkes to get that chance, I just think knowing who David Tepper is, I really just I think the Panthers are going to move on and they're going to go in an offensive minded direction. And we're about to talk about that a little more fully. First, shout out to our good brother, Nick Montero, with the 1999 love bomb.
Yeah.
Nick, you know we love you, brother. He said Steve Wilkes might not be the best coach available, but he is the best for us. You cannot overlook how motivational he has been for this team in a terrible situation that was created by David Tepper in the first place. Bars. Love that from my man Nick. Nick, we certainly appreciate you, brother. And then the final two that we have here, Wilkes pulling punches like pre-Riverboat Ron. I like him, but no playoffs equals shop around, and that kind of seems like another fair statement too. The stats with $2 says our kicker did lose the Atlanta game for us though, and I think I probably
and you could say the Browns game. Actually, you know what? You
Stats
can
got
say
another one in
lose
there, by
it.
the way.
He had an opportunity to win it. Anyway, we're not going to argue about my point that I always make about kickers. But when it comes down to the last, so for instance, again, this happened where the Georgia Bulldogs held on to a lead, is that Ohio State kicker didn't lose the game for Ohio State. He just didn't win it for him.
Yeah.
You know, they were already down a point. And that's the thing is for Wilkes is that there was, if he would have won against Pittsburgh and if he would have won two more games, not him, if this team under his leadership would have won two more games, there would have been no conceivable way you could have hired another candidate.
Right.
That's my thing is now there's actually a way that the conversation exists.
Right.
Where, like you said, he gets a seat at the table. And I tell you, Harbaugh, if let's be honest, folks, is that 8 weeks ago, before Steve Wilkes had taken over and you had seen anything about this, if you said that the Carolina Panthers were going to fire Matt Rule and the guy that they potentially would be getting was Jim Harbaugh, would you not be interested as a mofo?
Right. I mean, and that's the thing is after the season, now that the season is done, right? We're just playing for peanuts at this point, right? Now that it's done, and we haven't made it to the dance, this becomes a lot more appealing. I'm a Steve Wilkes fan, but this does open up my mind to, okay, and I talked about it on Sunday. I said, we've been grading Steve Wilkes on the Matt Rule grading scale. Yeah, right. We've been saying that Steve Wilkes is so much better than what Matt Rule is. Well, that's not a great measuring stick, right? You're not talking about measuring sticks of like, that's basically like saying that your 2-year-old is twice as tall as your 1-year-old, right? It doesn't help. What you want is a guy who's going to be the guy, and unfortunately, Jim Harbaugh has been that guy. I do want to make this clear to people, because if Steve Wilkes is not going to be the head coach, I am telling you right now, he is not going to be our defensive coordinator. People are already hoping that he's going to sign up for that.
If I read that one more time,
Yeah,
I'm
he
just
is
gonna
not
mute
going to.
Do you think
whoever
he gets an offer
tweets it.
somewhere else?
Number one,
It just
David-
would be like it would be like
No.
if
it
would be like you'd be a cuck.
Well, no, it's not even that. David Tepper will not be choosing the defensive coordinator. Jim
Right. Well,
Harbaugh
true,
would be. Like,
Right.
people are so like, you're,
but
you're
I mean,
thinking
Wilkes
this is
is
a part
too.
of.
I mean, like I would hope no one would. He would have the backbone.
I'm
He
all
would
right with.
legitimately would just say this is thanks, but no thanks. That's what I would say. Imagine if you tried out for the job and you really would, and then they're like, but here, we'll give you this other one. I'd just be like, thanks, but no thanks.
Right. Well, and here's the thing: is if you want to try to see if maybe he wants to be a part of like the back office in some way, shape, or form, like you see down with.
No, I don't think. I think it just
Tampa
makes
Bay
it too
with
complicated.
Tony
man.
Tony is completely right. If you're Steve Wilkes, there is no way on God's green earth
right.
that you will have gone from taking this Panthers team to
Yeah.
the bottom of the NFL to a legitimate contender for the
You're
NFC
just going.
South.
I'm going to my
Even though
lawyer's
it's
office.
bad, even though it's bad, you're not going to go and just say, "Oh, okay, well, I'll come and be the second in command for the next guy that you're going to hire, who maybe never would have done what I accomplished this year with the means that I had available to me and the resources that I had available to me." So
He's just
yeah,
gonna
I
walk
think
to
that
that
it's
lawyer's office at that point and say, "This is
Yeah.
what I've been saying."
But you know what though? At this point, like if we're just gonna keep it real, if we're already hearing rumors, and again, they're all rumors, man. Nobody knows what
Yeah.
David Tepper is really thinking this
Well,
far
look at
out.
this one though.
We
Read
can
this one
we
as you
can
tell us.
speculate, but what I'm saying is that if you believe that he's already looking for other coaches, then that lawsuit, he in his mind, that's the NFL's problem and not his. After everything that he has been through as the owner of the
You're
Carolina
right.
Panthers,
Oh, that's a good point.
he is going to do every single thing in his power to secure a head coach that he feels is going to give him the best chance going forward in the long run. And fact of the matter is, all the names that you've been hearing are guys that have had a proven track record as a head coach. We were hearing Sean Payton originally. Then we started hearing Quinn, who none of us wanted,
Oh
but
God,
he's been to, but he's
I'd be
been to a,
most mad with that
right,
one.
but he's been to a Super Bowl. All it reveals is what David Tepper is looking for: someone with a proven resume. And what
Yeah,
I'm here to
and
tell you is that there is no one now available with a more proven resume, in my opinion, than Harbaugh. This was
Dude, I've been
originally
saying this forever. I've been trying to tell you this is the name. This is the only name that
Yeah.
would have brought it enough, whatever, wow factor. And to be honest, look, he even wore the Panther jersey at one point. Never played. What was active in a couple games. Never played.
Well,
but
here's-
he's an offensive guy, right? I mean, he was a former quarterback. He
And-
has had ridiculous, I mean, like crazy success in the NFL.
Yeah. And here's the thing: is nobody's questioned his success, and anybody who here's
People
the thing
say he's
is
hard to work with.
that's the question mark that's kind of like the cloud over top of his tenure in the 49ers, right? Organization was his personality and how he ran a locker room. And
Do you think that could be overblown though? too?
yes, absolutely.
I think that too, because the problem that they had there was really a relationship between that guy Trent Baalke, who was I think their GM at the time,
GM.
and him. And so some people tried to, I wonder if we kind of kind of listened to some of the tidbits being leaked by maybe the Baalke camp that like Harbaugh was the problem, to get around. But think about this: is there right now they got who the former guy from Tampa Bay who's their GM now for San Francisco.
He's
He's like the best one in the league.
Lynch.
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 Yeah, it's so John Lynch. The thing is it's not like Balky survived all of this. Is what Harbaugh did is have tremendous success in the NFL, come within a play of basically winning the Super Bowl, I think.
Yeah, outside of a power blackout, they would have had that.
Yeah, he's then moved to the college ranks again for the second time and had tremendous success there. And is that everybody continue? I think it's a big turnaround for how bad they were for a long time. But then on top of that is that while we continue to hear how difficult he is to work with, everybody wants him.
Well,
so I don't know if I can really buy into that all the time.
Exactly.
Is that is like they just say he's kind of like, well, look, the players don't hate him in Michigan. We're all going to be wearing khaki pants, boys.
Yeah. Think about this. Didn't people say that, like in Seattle, that Pete Carroll was the problem? He was a huge problem.
Yeah, they started to say it when they started to go down. Yeah,
and then
then they got rid of Russell Wilson, and they're playing better than they have in years. Well, not in years, but they're playing well.
I think it's a great point.
Bill was also hard to work with, guys. Bill Belichick. People, I mean, like, come on now.
But when they win,
guess who else is hard to work with?
You got to do hard things to win sometimes.
Sometimes
you should do hard things to win.
White Chocolate Espresso asks a great question. Is Tepper going to let him have roster control? And I think something that we need to bring up is the differences between being a college head coach and an NFL head coach. Yes, he is proven as an NFL head coach. He went to the Super Bowl with the San Francisco 49ers. So this is a night and day different situation than what we had with Matt Rule. But when you're the head coach of a blue blood powerhouse football team, you have to understand you are the god on campus. Literally everything that Harbaugh says and does goes. Same thing Matt Rule wanted with the Panthers, like what you had at Temple and Baylor. If you are going to ask Jim Harbaugh to come back here, what we are essentially saying is the type of situation that we had under Matt Rule, with Matt Rule calling all the shots, having final roster say so. You're out of your mind if you don't think that Jim Harbaugh isn't going to ask for the same thing if he comes to Carolina.
I give it to him in heartbeat.
Would you fire Scott Fitterer to do it?
No, I think Scott Fitterer is perfect. He's the wet noodle that you need. He's the messenger. He's the guy that goes and does what Harbaugh or what Matt Rule said before, but now what Harbaugh could say next. And I understand, Cody, that we're coming off of that. The guy who buys into themselves more, like I said, that's really the criticism of Rule, where Rule thought he was cooler than he was. But I think Harbaugh's demonstrated from different platforms, and I think you got to put some context into it a little bit. One is that what he did was at Stanford, right? I think it was Stanford, and that was with luck, I believe.
Yeah, so this is
I think he was the coach. I mean, like, let's go back. Yeah, like, was he with Luck at Stanford?
Yeah.
And where did Christian McCaffrey play at too?
Well, when McCaffrey, it was at Stanford, but when McCaffrey
way
played,
after,
that was when he would be in the.
It was what's the guy's name? The head coach of Stanford. His name is chat. Put his name in the chat. The head coach of Stanford. But this is the. I mean, some of the selling points.
I just want to mention this about what you're talking about with the God on whatever stuff real quick, is that Michigan, though, while they are the blue blood of blue blood type teams, and you think about that, they had been very bad for a long time before Harbaugh took over. And like, I just want to put this into context, is that the ECU Pirates are going to be playing in Ann Arbor next year, the opening week for their college football season. There was a time when Appalachian State beat Michigan. It's like, is that wow, and then all of a sudden now they have quietly, I would say quietly until this year, just won. Like lunch pail won
They were in the
year in,
playoffs
year out.
last year. They were in the playoffs last year. They made it to the playoffs this year. They were in a competitive game with TCU. This is some of his track record, right? So he's an ex-player. He was former quarterback for the Carolina Panthers. So that's something to be said. He was successful in both college and NFL at multiple spots. So that's something to be said. It also doesn't say it here, but he's a part of a football family. His father played. His brother is the coach for the Ravens. Like these guys
And
have
not
been
just the coach
these
for the
guys have
Rays,
been
like an incredible coach.
yeah, these guys have been kicking ass at the head coaching position for the past 20 years or more, right? He's a proven quarterback developer, so he was able to improve Andrew Luck. He made Colin Kaepernick the answer to that 49ers squad while he was there. And look at this record, man. And this is, I think, probably the strongest selling point for Harbaugh. He's 44, 19, and 1 as an NFL head coach. And that's his regular season record. And he has no losing seasons. That's something that we've been talking about with Mike Tomlin. That Mike Tomlin's never had a losing season.
It might not
Harbaugh,
still.
yeah, and might not still, right? Harbaugh is that type of coach. He's that type of commodity that you're talking about. So it's easy to see why, if why David Tepper's having conversations with Jim Harbaugh right now. There was also this another rumor that floated around that before they hired Rule, Harbaugh had called David Tepper and inquired about the job, and yet
We never heard that last year. We didn't hear that one time.
no, and we never heard that before. And more importantly, it's bullshit. If David Tepper slammed the phone on a Jim Harbaugh when he was hiring his next head coach, then he'd be the dumbest millionaire or billionaire in the world. I know damn well that didn't happen, right? I mean, we can put that to bed.
I want to put.
Yeah, go ahead.
Pickle was saying that Jimmy Clausen was here longer than Harbaugh, and that is true in Carolina. But let's also point out this is that he started playing in the NFL. He was selected in the first round in 1987. So he then was in the NFL for, 14 seasons before he gets to the Carolina Panthers. Jimmy Clausen didn't play 3 seasons. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, yes, is that we just like saying is that he wore the Panthers jersey. Like there's some sort of, not that connection really exists. But I want to point out this too, is he's had 2 stints in the NFL. One as in coaching. One was his first was as an assistant with the Oakland Raiders when Rich Gannon led the Raiders to a Super Bowl. And he also won the NFL MVP that year, Rich Gannon. And Harbaugh was one of the quarterback coaches. He was the quarterback coach, it looks like, with Rob Johnson and some other small, but like he kind of fits the exact. What box does he not check?
Right.
Well,
of the things that you have wanted in lieu of the not only where we were before the Matt Rule hire, but what's happened with Matt Rule and all of this. What is the nick against him?
So I'll say this, and then I'm going to pass the mic to the Bat Daddy. One of the big criticisms around Jim Harbaugh is that he's always a bridesmaid, never a bride. This man, ever since he's been in the college football, let me just read this tweet here. Jim Harbaugh has now lost 6 straight bowl games with Michigan. So that's not even the playoffs. That's just every bowl game that they've been in, they've lost. And they were allowing almost 40 points a game, right? And even going back to the NFL, he'd made it to the playoffs before. But even when he went to the bowl, like CK said, maybe if the power didn't go out, maybe they win. But at the end of the day, he has never won.
It was like a muff
at-
putt or something too.
Yeah,
It was like
and then
something. It was like one play.
I'm gonna pass the mic to Greg. The last thing I'll say is that at once upon a time, this was a very similar thing that was said about Andy Reid. That for as good of a coach as Andy Reid was, he never ever won big games
True.
and never ever went all the way. And nobody's
Yeah.
saying about that. Nobody's saying that about him now. Go ahead, Bad
Right.
Dave.
Well, I just wanted to say, like, I feel like what I want right now is I want to sign the guy that I know is going to be the guy for the next 10, 15 years
Yes.
in Carolina. Like I want that franchise coach, and he looks like the guy you could sign to be that guy if it works out based on his stats.
He's
and
a
based on
franchise
everything
guy
else.
already
He's
in the
the
way, Greg.
franchise
He's
guy, yeah.
been he's got the top job for the last 20 years. It's not like he's a new name. You know what I'm saying? It's
Right.
like he's gonna have another job next year,
a
even if he
safe
don't have
pick.
this job.
And
It's
let's
a
be
safe
real about
pick,
it.
yeah.
If we hire him and he's around for 10 or 15 years, that means we've gotten to the Super Bowl, we've
Yeah.
won the Super Bowl,
Right.
and we've
Agreed.
had back-to-back winning seasons. Like that's the thing we haven't been able to overcome. And here's the part that with Harbaugh, you asked about what's the negative. I mean, you're always going to have that cloud that we were talking about earlier about how he's going to interact with players. And right now, the players really love Steve Wilkes.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And the players are really buying into what Steve Wilkes is giving you. Are they going to come back to a guy like Harbaugh, who now I know that he's had success, but for the past 6 years, he's been in a college environment, treating guys like college students, college players? Is he going to be able to adjust to what these guys in the NFL need a coach to be?
The answer is a resounding yes. CK.
You believe so? Because I mean, I think that was a part of his the question marks around him as a head coach in the 49ers uniform.
I think a lot of that, I think we're going to go back and we can find out, A, that's a long time ago, one. B, that there's probably some deflection coming from the other voices that were also in trouble in that 49ers thing. But here's the thing, guys, actually I want to point to is that because I really don't care. I think the question is whether or not he gets a job or not. Like, I mean, or Wilkes. Does Wilkes' camaraderie undermine what he could bring to the table, I guess? I think this is that, and I didn't say that correctly, but what I mean is that, yes, it's a cool story. It's a great story that Matt Rule was fired and that Steve Wilkes, the Charlotte guy, who we brought back in just this year to kind of basically oversee in case something like this happened with Rule. That's why they brought Steve Wilkes back, essentially, is to be a safety net for if Rule failed. I mean, they made Rule had to retool all of his coaching staff for the event that he got fired. So it's been a good story. The Panthers somehow coalesced. They a family in disarray somehow bonded under the leadership of Uncle Steve Wilkes. It's a good story, but these players are going to be gone next year. This team is going to be completely different. And that story, while it means something to some of these players on this team, there are too many moving parts for it to be a thing that overrides. Like, I think bringing in just a good guy who's going to do the thing, like everything is enough to make that feel in June or July like that was years in the past. You know, is that like, I mean, like how long will the story, it's a good story with Wilkes. And you know what? I'd be very happy if Wilkes is the coach. I don't feel like we're going to be in a bad situation. I just think this is that Harbaugh he fits every thing that we said that we have been interested in as Panther fans for a long time now. And this even goes before Matt Rule. You're talking about a guy with pedigree. You're talking about a guy who is on the offensive side of the football. And I don't care if you don't think he's like the biggest mastermind or whatever. is that the offense, he will always be well equipped in that department. And we just haven't had that. 20 years of either defensive coaches, which I guess you would end up classifying Wilkes as, and then Rule just being a fraud coach. He just was a fake coach.
I don't think
This
the
is the
players
guy.
I don't think the players would have a problem with playing for a different coach necessarily. They may love Wilkes, but at the same time, you're getting paid to play for the Panthers, no matter who's coaching the team. I mean, and honestly, once you've played for Matt Rule, you've hit the bottom anyway. So anybody but Matt Rule is up. So I feel like they'd play for anybody.
Sure, but
Yeah,
it's the difference
I
about
do.
how they play, right? And whether they buy in. Like, we also thought that these guys would play under Rule, and we see a completely different team now that Rule's gone.
They tried to, though. They tried.
Can I say what gives me pause is just the amount of control that I do think that we would have to give up. And listen,
Let's
I
talk about this.
understand. Well, and listen, I understand that, you can't ask for a better pedigree than Jim Harbaugh. Like, I understand that. And by the way, if I'm a betting man, I'll go ahead and say this now. I'll make my prediction. I do think Jim Harbaugh is going to be the next head coach of the Carolina Panthers. And part of the reason why I wanted to even talk about this tonight, it's so much about David Tepper. Because understand, this man, when we were talking about after Jerry Richardson was disgraced and shamed away from the team, one of the reasons why we said David Tepper was always going to be the front runner to buy the team was just because he could sign a check. Like $2.5 billion was nothing to this man. Well, for a brief stint in time, he was the most wealthiest NFL owner in the NFL at like $1 billion. But now he's not anymore, because the Waltons, who now own the Denver Broncos, they're like richer than him by $20 billion. So what that means is now you have a family that can literally throw as much money possible as they want to any head coach that they want, and they're going to be able to justify paying him that money. So in my opinion, if you're David Tepper, you now have to be more aggressive than you ever had before.
You mean like an 8-year, $64 million deal?
Wait until we start paying Jim Harbaugh.
It's going to be the Gruden money.
$20+ million a year.
Gruden
And then,
money, right?
and then talk to me, right?
There's a part of me that I understand what you're saying, but there's also a part of me that realizes that Jim Harbaugh right now, I know money talks. I don't know that money is his dividing factor. If he wants money, he just stays at Michigan. He's making so much money as it is. He doesn't need more money. He's coming back to the NFL for the ability to win a Super Bowl, right? And here's my question.
Fair point. Yeah.
Okay, here's my question. Do you, as Jim Harbaugh,
scared to win a college championship?
Let's look at But the other part of it is what comes along with a lot more, like what brings you a lot more, I guess, legacy. And I think an NFL championship brings you more legacy than a college football championship. However, my point being is the Broncos do not look appealing to any head coach right now. You've traded away as many assets as you possibly can as far as to get Russell Wilson. You've paid him a guaranteed contract that puts you in one of the worst salary cap situations moving forward you could ever possibly ask for. You've gotten rid of some of your best players on your defense. And sure, there are some promising pieces to that team, but as a whole, you're not looking at a great scenario. Now, flip the switch. I'm not saying that the Panthers are a favorite for him, because
Sam Darnold,
you don't have a single quarterback under contract other than Matt Corral. Okay,
YGM,
and he's on a very small rookie contract. But here's my point: we cannot use the legacy of him being a Carolina Panther as a winning point for him.
Yeah,
he's in the Hall of Honor for the Indianapolis Colts. Okay, so we're going to be fighting the Indianapolis Colts for Jim Harbaugh. And you've got to ask yourself,
who's in the Hall of Honor?
Jim
For the
Harbaugh.
Colts. Is he? For the Colts?
Yes. He
I
is.
thought he did his mess with the Bears. Ooh,
No,
okay.
he's in the Hall of Honor with them. He didn't do shit with them, but for whatever reason, they put him in the Hall of Honor. But that being said, my question to you guys on the panel is, in your opinion, when you think about Jim Harbaugh, do you look at an appealing situation like when you look at the Colts and you look at the Panthers? There's a lot of similarities, but the Panthers, we're not going to fire our GM, right? Scott Fitter has done nothing wrong. If anything, he's done a lot of positive things for this team. Unfortunately, the Indianapolis Colts very well could fire their GM, which means that I think Jim Irsay would be more than happy giving over full control over the roster to Jim Harbaugh came to the Colts. Okay, we've already seen how he feels about former players with his hire of Jeff Saturday. Second is, do you think as Jim Harbaugh, it looks more appealing to go to Indianapolis Colts who've already had Super Bowls, right? You're just going to be a list of winning Super Bowl coaches, or do you want to go to a franchise that has never won one and be the first guy to bring that home to Charlotte? Because I feel like legacy is going to be way more powerful to bring the first Super Bowl to a team that has yet to see one, in my opinion, or the Lombardi to a team that has yet to see one. I'm hoping, but at the same time, I don't know. I don't know what's going to be talking to Jim Harbaugh. What are your opinions?
The one thing I wanted to mention, the talk about Harbaugh and some people who are kind of trying to find ways, like just saying they wouldn't want him in Carolina, they don't think it would work, is because of rules, full control over the roster clause stuff, and like how much control they had, and Tepper being wary of giving that. And they're also supposing or presupposing that Harbaugh would want full control of everything. And that's kind of how his personality leads. What's interesting to me about this conversation, though, is I think that in some ways Carolina is a perfect place suited for a coach in that role, because I think Scott Fitter is ultimately a wet noodle at the position, a guy who will do what is told. And I don't want to be like overly rude to him, is like we've already showed that he can work within that role as a GM, as like he doesn't have to come in there and make it so like he has to, it's not his power grab. So he actually could be a GM that would fit working with a coach like that. The bigger question mark for me is, the concern is can David Tepper work with a person like Jim Harbaugh?
Sure.
And one of the things is, I wonder if what was appealing to Matt Rule was that he stroked Tepper's ego. He slobbed his knob ultimately in whatever way was necessary. And Will Harbaugh, who has will Tepper allow an alpha in the room with him?
I think
Well,
Tepper's at the
it's
point
some.
I think Tepper's at the point that
No,
wins speak volumes. Like
Right.
he'll
Like
submit
he's
to
ready to
wins.
put his ego away.
He'll
at this
submit to
moment.
wins. Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Well, that
Yeah,
too.
and
I
I
mean, you
think
got to
that-
keep in mind he grew up in Pittsburgh with like, I mean, these guys. I mean, people talk to each other the way that Jim Harbaugh would talk to David Tepper. Like, you're not taught. Like, people aren't going up to you like, "Oh man, hey, great day today." You're like, you're telling people how you really feel, and it's not offensive to people in those types of I don't know what you want to call the Pittsburgh, but like those types of cities where they value honesty, right? And so I think I don't think that's gonna be a problem, in my opinion.
So I want to ask you guys if you think this is true, and then after this we'll get to a few super chats and a brand new super fan. But I have some issues with this. Now, shout out to Will Kunkel from Fox, because he's been the guy that's broken news. He was the guy that originally reported all of them. And one of his tweets says Jim Harbaugh has made it known he's sincere in his interest in the Panthers head coaching job. He likes the roster and loves the opportunity as well. And I want to pinpoint on that in a second too. But it goes on to say the Broncos job is not as attractive to Harbaugh because of Herbert and Mahomes in the same division. Up until that point. Because
That's very fair.
what
Yeah.
coach is going to come out and admit, well, nah, I don't want to play in that division because the competition and the quarterbacks are really good over there? Like, it just seems that if you're a quarterback that's worth your weight in salt, you're not going to come out and to people that, oh, well, I don't want to play against those quarterbacks because you don't know who could be the quarterback for the Falcons or the Saints in the next couple of years.
Oh,
You
stop!
just
Nah,
simply
nah.
you just simply don't know. You simply don't
Really?
know. My point is that if he just said, nah, I don't want to play Herbert and Mahomes twice a year, then it's like to me that kind of seems a little bit more like a subtle way of saying, and we can discuss that I don't want any part of having to turn around Russell Wilson and be the thing that
Okay.
determines if Russell Wilson is
Right.
going to be successful in Denver or not.
I think what you got
That's
to
what
bring
that
up is
says to
what.
me.
See, yeah. Well, I think there is this. Is first of all, this is a tweet, and kind of probably a source of a source type thing, relay of a relay.
Right.
And it's probably, I mean, I'm not saying that it's not, I'm not questioning their credibility, but you're condensing what is probably a more nuanced conversation into three sentences, three sentences, right? And so at the same time as, yeah, you could say this is like, you could say, well, like what CK was saying is that this, at the end of the day, not only are you going into a division where you've got powerhouses, right?
Mhm.
Teams that have been building for this moment. It's not even a referendum on Russell Wilson, but like what CK said, all the picks you gave for him, the problems, like there's a lot of other
Yeah.
parts of the team, even if Russell
Yeah.
Wilson turns out to be fine. Say he can
Right.
go in there and just poof, fix Russell Wilson. It doesn't matter. They still are going against teams in that division that are very well built.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Right.
and
So I think that's just a recognition of that. And it's kind of like this is like if you had your choice of in your success is based also on your competition. Like if we had to go play duos, whatever, and I got to choose the worst player to play against or the best player to play against, and my money and my success was built on it, I'm going to pick the worst person. You're not going to try to go be the coach of the Jets, who are a terrible team, while Tom Brady is just winning Super Bowls every year. There's a reason Tom
Right.
Brady made the playoffs every year, not only because he was very good, but his entire division was terrible.
Mhm.
So
well,
I wouldn't want to go. I mean, it's like that's like going into a game and saying I'm going to play knives only. Is like he might as well. This is why the Panthers aren't the worst job in the league.
sure. And go ahead, Greg. I know you had something to say.
Well, I was just going to say both can be true. Cody, what you're saying there, he can, be not wanting to play the best quarterbacks in the league, Herbert and Mahomes, two of the best quarterbacks in the league, and not wanting to turn around Russell Wilson. So both can be true in this situation, and I think that it doesn't say anything against him if you don't go again. It's the same reason you fight for the number one seed, the same reason you go for the pole position in racing. Like you want to put yourself in the best position to win.
Yeah.
So I think that him, if that is a reason that he didn't want to go there, there's nothing wrong with that being a reason. That's a legitimate reason for not
Sure.
wanting to go play.
And
You don't want to play. It's the reason why you don't trade within your division,
right.
because you don't want to have to play that guy unless you have to play him in the Super Bowl.
Well, you want to
Yeah.
also create a culture of winning, right? And so if you go to a division where you're starting to try to have to rebuild, you don't want to rebuild having these guys get swept by these teams every single game, right? For that first season, it might be
Arkansas
tough,
playing
right?
Alabama,
Right?
like
And
we're trying to
so-
make Vanderbilt good against. Oh, but they got to play
Right.
Alabama every year.
And a lot of people are saying, so Sam Darnold looks more appealing than Russell Wilson. And I'm like, here's the thing. Sam Darnold's not under contract next year, first and foremost. Second, he might find Sam Darnold to be appealing because guess what was considered a bust when he took over the job of the 49ers? Alex Smith. He turned Alex Smith's career around.
Yeah, he did.
And so he went on to be a great quarterback for them. And the only reason Kaepernick took over was because Alex Smith got injured. So when you look at that, and the thing that I love about that is he went from a guy who was not a mobile quarterback in the same season, and he was able to change the offense around two different playing styles for two separate quarterbacks.
Mhm.
Like you've got to
That's
take You got to take that into consideration. The dude isn't just a coach that's going to be one hit pony, if you will. He's not going to have one trick pony. I mean, he's going to be able to come in here and he's going to be able to be very flexible in how he approaches things. He might really like Matt Corral and what he can do. We don't know, but
or maybe he just actually go back to the money. Two things: the money thing. I want to highlight this one comment. Is Michael Igwe, and I probably just destroyed it the way that's pronounced. He said Harbaugh was his first season was 13-3. On top of that, you add that 13-3, they were 6-10 the year before. And Alex Smith was considered to be a bust. Right? It's like the 49ers have been a perpetual loser. So not only was he 13-3, they've been perpetual losers in such a way. And even a coach that we like, kind of like I won't say like Willis, but Mike Singletary, the 85 Bears guy, the Ron Rivera, player like ahead of better than Ron Rivera. Also, remember, he was the one that dropped trowels after a loss. He dropped his, or maybe it was before game. I think it was after a loss. He dropped his pants and showed his, what to the team and said that we better own up and show our, like he was like that. This is his rah-rah speech. Yeah, I love that. You know what? I like I fucks with Mike Singletary, but like Harbaugh, his success is not just 13-3. It's 13-3 after a team that was a perpetual loser, right? So, and then the one other thing I want to talk about was real quick with the money, and then we got to move on, or we got to move on to some other angle of it.
What's the thing? Yeah.
I don't, CK, you're right. Is that, is Tepper is not the richest anymore? Who said it? Was it CK or you that said it? Cody?
Cody, yeah.
Okay. But I don't think that really matters. I think that these guys are all rich enough to ultimately pay this guy what is required to get him. And so I don't think is that there's some point where if Tepper wanted to buy a car at an auction and this guy was in the room for the car and he really wanted it, he could get it. It doesn't matter if the other guy's worth $10 billion more. There's going to be a point where the Denver team just says, you know what, we're not going to. I think they're rich enough to where money is not the issue. Both of them.
Yeah, maybe. He's definitely going to have to break out his pocketbook.
Sure. It ain't going to be cheap. But you know what? That's that when you're super rich. Here's the other thing is that we also know you're super rich.
Yeah, it's not.
That's the other good thing about negotiating with David Tepper is that he's rich enough. You that you could get it.
Yeah, and we're just the basement dwellers. So what do we care that it's David Tepper spending his money? Like if he goes out and he has to spend way extra in order to get his coach, then hey man, he needs to do it.
Let's just put it this way: if we went to dinner with David Tepper, though, and we went to dinner with him, and we knew that he was going to pay the tab, because he had to, because we don't have any money, and he's a fucking billionaire, so he's got to pay the tab, right? It's like it would be a dickhead move if he didn't. But we're going to be adding the shrimp. That's what I'm gonna be. I'm gonna let me get another. I'll take another double. I'll take another double. Another double. I'm a drink.
Bring the whole bottle of wine to the table.
Yeah, it's and you know what? Is that I'm gonna look crass. I'm gonna look unrefined for it, and he's gonna be like, "Oh, I'm never gonna go to dinner with this guy again." And I was like, "Oh, you're never gonna go to dinner with me anyway again. Don't worry." That's what you get when you get the more juice for the squeeze when you're with a billionaire like that. You know what I'm saying? It's like I just went and watched that Glass Onion movie. We're all, we would be milking that golden tit. Yeah. We would be milking that golden tit. So, and you know what? I expect them to fully milk it when it comes. I don't care who it is. They're going to get paid.
Yeah, absolutely. And then real quick, want to make sure we do our due diligence. God of Blackness with another $5. Shout out to God of Blackness. He's already at over $20 tonight. He says, I'm trying to see Colorado versus Nebraska, Coach Prime versus Coach Rule next season. I'm sure we'll all be interested to see how that goes. And then CK, it's been a minute, but your services are needed because we got a brand new super fan, baby.
Ooh. Well. Let me warm up the pipes. Promise QS Panda has hit that subscribe and the join button. He said, I want to support the C3 Panthers, and I'm going to join the C3 Superfan Club. Well, welcome into the club, my friend.
Welcome to the club. Welcome to the club. So listen, we're not done with this Jim Harbaugh conversation. But Bat Daddy is. He needs to rest that back. Bat Daddy, people have been asking about you for the past, 2 weeks that you haven't been here, man. Your fans have missed you, man. We're happy to have you back. But yeah, you want to say anything before you jump out of here?
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. Yeah, sorry, I'm recovering surgery. This is the longest I've sat up in quite a while, and I'm kind of starting to feel it, so I kind of need to go take a rest.
No problem, man.
But I really do appreciate it, man. And this week was a gut punch. Football season's over. It's time to start looking to the draft and forward to everything else and coaches and all that good stuff. So I'm interested to talk about all this stuff with y'all in the future. And we're going to keep pounding because we're Panthers fans. What we do. So,
That's it. Keep pounding.
but I
Well, Greg,
appreciate it,
rest
y'all.
up, man. Yeah, happy to have you back, and we will be seeing you again next post game show.
Yeah, definitely. Next week.
Oh, yeah.
Sunday.
Get well, Greg.
Y'all keep pounding.
Keep pounding.
Later, brother. All right. So, we've already been talking about this, and like I said, we're not done with it. Let's really delve into this. We kind of already started to do it already, but let's say that the Panthers do have their eyes set on Jim Harbaugh, and Jim Harbaugh, being the big name that he is, gets the pick of whatever team that he wants to go to. Compare the Panthers situation to some of the other vacancies and the openings that we're going to end up having down the road. But hey, damn, before we do, Michael Davis with the $35 love bomb. Michael, you are the man, brother. You know we love you, man. This is another one of the patron saints of the C3 podcast. No message, just dropping the love bomb. Hey, we appreciate you, Michael. You are certified the man. But boys, I just kind of want to go through the ins and outs of how the Carolina Panthers stack up as a landing when you compare him with all these other teams. And right now I have the Broncos and the Colts on screen with this picture, but this applies to any other team that you think could end up being, hiring a new coach at the end of the season. How do the Carolina Panthers stack up? Who wants to jump in on this first? I have a very strong opinion, but I'm going to let one of you boys jump in on this first.
I'll tell you this. I mean, I asked the question earlier about how we stack up against these other two. I think the Broncos are not even on the board, in my opinion. Like, I think there's too much, unknowns about that organization. They've already had a history of Super Bowls, and I just don't know that he wants to go to a place where he gets lost in the list of Super Bowl winning head coaches there, right? Second, I want to talk about the Colts. I think the Colts are our biggest competitor. However, I think that could change as the season comes to an end, because there's going to be other coaches fired. Mainly, I think there's a real possibility after what happened in Washington that Ron Rivera is no longer on the board there. And so Washington could be another candidate place for him. I don't think that that's more appealing than us, but I think there's going to be some people out there that might be trying to make it run at Jim. However, I think the Colts are our biggest competitor because of the history he has with the Colts. The fact that Jim Harbaugh will be more than willing to give him complete control of the roster. And I think they have a couple of key pieces that that Jim Harbaugh is going to be able to look at and see, some future with. Their O-line needs some help. They have some pieces missing, but I think that could be appealing. However, the Panthers, you got to keep in mind, I think when you look at the Colts and the Panthers are where the Panthers were. Maybe last year after we midway through the season after we picked up the 5th-year option for Sam, where we felt like there was no hope. We would have not been appealing whatsoever. Now, if you look at the Colts, they are beholden to Matt Ryan. For better or for worse, he's getting paid. They're going to have a lot of free agents coming up. They've got to pay. And I think that they're in a bit of a tough spot right now, especially with the way that they've handled Carson Wentz and now obviously Matt Ryan. But I look at that list and I think the Panthers have to be on top.
So,
All right.
this is you want to go first, Tony?
No, why don't you go? You go. You go.
Yeah. Okay. So I think the Panthers are easily the number one team on this list, and it's not just being a homerism thing. One, we look at the division, and we damn near won the division this year. At what, we're 6-10 right now. Like, this division was wide open for the Carolina Panthers to come and compete, and we do have really good players on the football team, which is why Scott Fitterer didn't trade away Brian Burns, didn't trade away DJ Moore. There is a young, strong nucleus to this football team that would be very attractive for Harbaugh to come into. More importantly, the media market. And these aren't necessarily big markets that we're talking about. I mean, Denver is fairly big, I guess. Indianapolis Colts, because they have a history and they've won Super Bowls. Maybe that makes them, a tougher media market to contend with. But think of it this way: if you're Jim Harbaugh, you're not coming into the hardest division in the NFL, and you're going that has been an underdog forever. You could be considered the guy that puts the Carolina Panthers over the edge. And I think that's an opportunity that would be hard for him to pass up, especially looking at what his brother has done for the Ravens and how good they've been. There's no reason why Harbaugh couldn't do that exact same thing for the Carolina Panthers. More importantly, when you look at Denver, yes, if their owners want to sign him a crazy check to come to Denver, yeah, they're going to have the power and the ability to do that. But I mentioned this earlier. If he goes to Denver, now the main narrative is, can Jim Harbaugh resuscitate the career of Russell Wilson? Can he turn him
That's
around
easy.
and
That's
turn him?
easy. That's not.
You don't know that. You don't know that. How do we know that Russell Wilson isn't ruined
It's
forever? And that
impossible for him to be that cooked overnight.
I
Dude,
don't know.
I am.
man.
Hey, when you hear the rumors
That's what
of
people
what
said about
Russell
Tom
Wilson,
Brady 2 weeks ago, and then look what he did.
but Tony, you've got to keep in mind what the difference is here, right? Jim Harbaugh is the guy. I want it done my way, right? This is going to be my way or no way, right? And Russell Wilson left the Seahawks because he wanted to be the leader of everything. He wanted to be the guy who was calling the offense. He wanted to be the guy who was let Russ cook. He's got his own office, like for heaven's sakes, dude. Like, the dude is like clearly a diva, and I know that's a normally reserved for people who are acting like that on the field. But when you hear the reports of what teammates feel about him, not his current ones, but previous ones, like, it's clear. I mean, I do not think Jim Harbaugh and Russell Wilson go together at all. That seems like
I think the draft
two
picks
opposite ends of the spectrum.
I think the lost draft picks and the rest of the problems with the team are more of a challenge in Denver than trying to find a way. Like, if I was gonna say what's the heart, like, if I bet on one thing or the other, I got to see one more year of Russell Wilson looking like this before I say it's just cooked. But it's been bad. I know that. But at the same time, is that there's so many assets they gave up for him. That's the problem for going.
And they got some back with Bradley Chubb.
I got to take on this question, and then we got to do some prize picks. We got so much show to do. We've had too much good conversation here tonight. All right, let's talk about this. Is if Jim Harbaugh has his pick of the litter, what is the prime landing spot for him? And I'm going to tell you this, is both of them are in the South. Both of the prime spots. I'm not ready to go just as confidently as Cody and CK have about the Panthers being the number one, the idealist of ideal destinations. But if we look at this is here, let's just try to figure out what teams are going to need a coach or could need a coach. The Commanders potentially could fire Ron Rivera, right? So the NFC, but that right now, you look at where the Eagles are at, you look at how the Cowboys are, like, this is a strong division. So if you're just looking at
playoffs,
right. So it's like, is that while they couldn't have a coach, it might not be the easiest place to walk into. You look at the NFC West, the Cardinals could need a coach.
Rams, maybe if Sean McVay quits.
Right. Oh, well, that's a good point. I think one thing, though, is I don't think it's the challenge only that is important to consider, is that does Jim Harbaugh want the headache of the narrative of playing the 49ers twice a year? Right. Does that come with just extra? You know what I'm saying? Like, what if he didn't have to play the 49ers and be in their same division? It's just another storyline. It's just something else. It's not even about the level of competition. It's just that could be just an annoying distraction in some ways. You look at this, is that nobody's going to need a coach here.
The Bears, maybe.
I don't know. As they just hired the guy.
I know, but I mean, you look what happened down in the Broncos, right? I mean, the Bears
they don't even have a good team, though. All right, maybe. Okay, but all right. So maybe the Bears, but all right. So I'll say I would be surprised if they fired their coach a little bit. I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked, but I would be surprised.
The connection with Jim Harbaugh and the Bears, first and foremost, you got to keep in mind too.
That's good.
Second, if the Bears see Jim Harbaugh on the board as an option,
I mean, that's not the worst. It's a good point. Now that you put it like that. All right, so we've talked about the interest of the Panthers, like how this could be is that you have Tom Brady on the way out. You have Saints in question. The Saints might need a coach. Dennis Allen is basically maybe saved his job with that last win, a lot of people think. But here, if you flip over to the AFC, here's the thing, is this. You don't want none of this.
No, none of them are going to be
fired. Nope. You don't want none of that. Then we've already talked about the Broncos ad nauseum. Right, with not only it's not the division, but it's the picks and all of that.
None of those people are
none
fired.
of those. You don't want none of that. But guess where?
The Colts.
No.
You think?
I think you get the. Yeah, I think the Texans, bro. If I was Harbaugh, I think my top 3 spots are.
Ooh, that's actually a really good point.
The Texans, and I don't say the number 1. I'm not saying the number 1. I think these are the top 3. You can put them in any order you want, right?
What would be the reason?
Texans. I think the Houston Texans are going to have a high pick and get a quarterback that you want, and are in much better financial shape, and all of that from the Deshaun Watson stuff, Nick Caserio, all of this. I think they're just more primed to turn around. Is like, hey, they're just in better financial shape.
You can rebuild the shit out of that team right now.
Correct. The Colts are in a losing model. So I think I just think this is like, if I know it sounds funky to say that you want to be the Texans coach over anybody, but they're really is in the ideal spot. It's the Colts who are the fucking mess out of those two at that point. And then here, is I think the Panthers, like we've talked about, and I think, like CK said, the Bears. Those are the 3. They're the 3 spots. I don't know if you want to put them in what order. I just don't think the Cardinals are up there.
I would still say that the Bears. I would put Bears ahead of Houston. And I hear what you're saying.
No, I'm not even putting them ahead of each other. I think those 3 right there. What's the thing that determines what you want more? And that's just money.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're going to the Houston Texans, like I think that
they're in the AFC. That's the only negative. The only negative about the Texans is you just have to get through the AFC. But if you were already mad about my man about not wanting to take on a court, like he didn't want to fight Denver versus Kansas City twice a year, the Chargers. I mean, like, you can't say, like, I mean, he's like, he can't be like, oh, I'm not going to take the Houston job because it's in the AFC. That would be some pussy ass shit.
Well, here's the question I have. Like, I want to look at the history of Jim Harbaugh. And the history is he took over the 49ers job. They had a lot of good pieces in place. They weren't a good team, but they had a lot of good pieces. I don't know that he wants to go to a full-on rebuild to a place. I think he would like to have some established leaders on a team. At least I would if I'm a coach of a team. I don't want to go to a place that's completely
What
just
team
hopeless.
has that though?
The Panthers.
Who has that?
Yeah,
How?
that's what I was saying.
Who do we got?
The
Who are
Panthers,
those
Brian
established
Burns,
but
leaders?
Derek
if you
Brown,
compare the
Jared-
Panthers to the Houston Texans,
Wow.
we have a far more loaded roster than them. And if you're Jim Harbaugh and you go to Houston,
Is
none
that
of those
true?
players are guaranteed to turn around right now, as opposed to some of the guys that we already have, that already have experience, that have proven themselves to be big time players
And
that
if you
might
don't-
need a few other pieces around them.
And if you don't think that
Don't they have
takes
3
pride-
first-round picks that they got for Deshaun Watson
Sure,
or some shit?
but
like that?
here's the thing: if you're Jim Harbaugh, do you not take pride in the fact that you've never had a losing season in the NFL?
Guess who the first person on the Houston Texans roster is?
Tell us.
It is alphabetical. Mario Addison.
So,
6 degrees of separation. I mean, the
Right.
various. All right. So.
but nonetheless,
Oh, Kyle
it's-
Allen plays for them too.
Yeah. So, but nonetheless, with regard to the Texans, you're going there. You're going to lose the first year. Like you're talking about just tearing that
You're not
roster
gonna
out
win
and
with
rebuilding
Carolina
it.
the first
right?
year either.
No, yes, you could. Look what they did this year. They have one of the best offensive lines in the NFL currently.
They don't
And
have a good roster.
And it did that with San Fran. What's the difference between the San Fran roster they
When he took
turned
over, yeah.
around and the Panthers roster? Like, you have a pass rusher, you have a number
They
one
had a
wide receiver.
defense, I think.
Like,
I think they
and
had
then
a
we're talking
defense,
about
man.
them turning around Alex.
They got
Alex
nobody
Smith.
on this team.
Dude, I could easily see him taking 2 very physically talented guys like Sam Darnold or Matt Corral and saying, yeah, let's continue to build around these guys, do what they do best. And if they don't work out this season, then if anything, next year's, I know this is so cliche, but next year's quarterback class, those guys have a lot more upside, in my opinion, than the guys coming out this year. But
Okay.
hey, even disregarding that, even if he came here and decided that he wanted to draft this year, be it CJ Stroud, I saw YB Jordan in the chat already talking about Anthony Richardson, who went to Florida. If he wanted to upgrade the quarterback position, he could absolutely do that. I mean, he
All
could
right.
do that.
So you know
and
what?
then
I'm gonna concede to you guys on this is that the Texans can't be the number 1 option.
no,
They
need
can't be the
so
number
much.
1, but I do think they're in that top 3. I told you I didn't rank them. I just put 3 as these are, I think, the most plausible, but they really fall down when you look at their roster. And shame on Nick Caserio.
right.
Shame on Nick Caserio, who we thought everybody look at somebody I was interested in coming to Carolina. It's like coming out of the Belichick. You know what I'm saying? Anything that comes out of New England that's not Belichick is not good.
But to be fair with Nick Caserio, like he had when you had the situation with Deshaun, you're not going to attract any free agents that are of high quality to the Texans right now.
No, I don't care about free agents. This team is old. Hey, tell me one name
Right.
on this team. Tell me a name that you recognize.
I mean,
Mario
outside of being a
Addison,
Panthers fan,
Kyle, right. Let's go. All right.
Malik Collins,
27 years old, defensive lineman. Okay.
Brandon
27-year-old Brandon Cooks. Yeah, but he's been in the league. Yeah, but he's been in the league. Like, you're not gonna be here next year. Philip Dorsett done nothing in this league.
Cooks wanted
Royce
out this year.
Freeman.
They were going to trade him.
Like, yeah, I know. Tell me, like, I mean, I'm just gonna keep. I mean, I'm not gonna go through every name, but like OJ Howard, bum. Like, tell
And
me
you're
one name.
you're in the AFC. That's too much to turn around.
I don't even
that's
know
doing
one.
too
And look
much.
at the ages. Look at this roster. Look at how old this roster is.
right?
They're not even no names. Like, they're names that I don't know, but like these guys are old names I don't know. Good God. The roster.
Yeah, it's
Poor
bad.
Lovie Smith.
The-
Poor
the-
Lovie Smith.
the our biggest competitors are the Denver Broncos.
I
And
disagree. I think it's the Colts hands down.
yeah, but again, the reason why I would say the Broncos is because
He'd be
forget
such a good
whether you're
fit for
concerning about Russell
Chicago,
Wilson
though.
or not. The Indianapolis Colts have no answer at quarterback. You're going to tell me that Jim Harbaugh thinks that Matt Ryan is still going to be able to do something at a
What
high
about
level?
Jim
Like
Harbaugh and
they're
Justin
gonna
Fields, bro?
they're gonna have to do something with with the Colts quarterback position. So I wouldn't. To me, if you believe that you probably could turn around Russell Wilson for the better. The thing that gives you pause is that if you don't, they are missing a lot of draft picks, and it would be very hard to move on. Let's say Russell Wilson lays another egg next year, it's going to be damn near impossible to move on from him because
CK
they're
has
paying him so
convinced
much
me.
money.
CK has convinced me that Chicago is the destination.
I mean, that's
Justin
if they decide to
Fields-
move on from their coach, right?
Justin Fields, though, you know what I'm saying? Like all of that is like, hey, he could do it.
That's the part that I that's the argument. But because there's not an open position just yet, and it's a first-year head coach, I have a hard time saying that's the way that it's going to go.
I don't know. You talked me into it, dude.
But like I said, if Jim Harbaugh has interest, I mean, that could be a scenario that you see the Chicago Bears saying, you know what, let's go ahead and move on and go after this guy. But the argument that I have against the Broncos is the same argument we've had is the you're going into one of the worst situations possible as a coach, right? You're going into a decimated culture there in the Broncos organization. And on top of that, when you think about the Colts, Matt Ryan may be a part of it, sure, right? But he's not guaranteed to be the quarterback. You're picking higher than we are right now as a Colt at the Colt. So that means they're going to have a better opportunity at one of these young quarterbacks in the draft. They're probably going to go after one of those young quarterbacks in the draft, and they're going to be tired of the same dance that we've been on this last 3 years too, of trying to go after a quarterback that hasn't worked out and paying too much for it. They've just been in worse situation for doing it. So I think that the Colts are certainly the bigger contender compared to the three people that actually have the open vacancies.
So one last thing to the Broncos conversation, and this is from Panther Pickle. Shout out to him. This is about the connection between Jim Harbaugh and Denver. They also share a Stanford connection. Broncos CEO Greg Palmer and his wife, co-owner Carrie Walton Penner, both attended graduate school at Stanford. Limited shareholder Condoleezza Rice was a part of Denver's search committee. Also has deep ties to Stanford, where Harbaugh coached from 2007 to 2010. Rice recently helped Stanford conduct its search for a longtime coach David Shaw's replacement. Penner has also noted in his media address last month that following the firing of Nathaniel Hackett, that he was looking for CEO type qualities in the team's next head coach, who will report directly to Penner. That would be a box checked by Harbaugh, who has spent the past 19 seasons as a head coach at the college or pro level. So again, with all of those things, our legitimate contenders, in my opinion, is going to be between us and the Denver Broncos. And even in spite of all of those things, I think the Panthers are number one when you're comparing them to the Broncos. I think we have a better climate. It feels better in Charlotte than it does in Denver. You're in a media market that's not as strenuous. You have options at the quarterback position if we decided to bring Sam Darnold back on a cheap deal, or run with Matt Corral, or if they wanted to draft a guy like Will Levis or Stroud or Anthony Richardson and bring them in for a little while and let them either compete to be the quarterback or just give them the reins. However you decide to do it, I just think that the overall scenario that the Panthers provides is just more enticing than Denver. And the final thing that I'll say is I think David Tepper factors into this. David Tepper has proven at every stop that there is no length that he isn't willing to go to in order to get what he wants to make this team be successful in the future. That's why I said if it's Jim Harbaugh, prepare to see the Panthers sign Jim Harbaugh a $20 million a year contract.
I'd be fine with it. I wouldn't give a damn.
Oh yeah,
I'm
it's not our
all
money. Why
in.
would we care?
Go back and check the tape, folks. Count my receipts. I told you this was the name that would be the only one that could overcome the story, the feel-good story that is Steve Wilkes. And I still am not going to be even say that I don't want Steve Wilkes. I can just understand and see a world where this could happen. I want to remind everybody that the C3 Panthers podcast is sponsored by Prize Picks. And I got to say this is that the conversation has been prized tonight. We have been on fire for 2 hours before we even did this segment, which is incredible. But we still have a ton of people watching, which is perfect time for you to make some money playing daily fantasy football sports. It's legal in 30 states, over 30 states in the United States, including North and South Carolina. If you use the promo code C3, that's C3, and you go to Prize Picks, you can download the app, you can go to the website, and you go there and you deposit $100 up to $100 first time, 100% deposit bonus match. So you put $100 in using that promo code C3, they will spot you $100 on top of that. Put in $50 your first time using that promo code C3, and you get $50 to play with Prize Picks. And I tell you, I don't even care if they're a sponsor or not. I love Prize Picks. I need to put it up here. I don't know how to control this as good as Cody does at this point. Let's take one of the things is this. Boy, we've been playing some Prize Picks. I've been playing some Prize Picks. People, my bastard son has been raking in some dough playing Prize Picks. And what you do is you go to Prize Picks, and we usually we do this on the C3 Panthers podcast. We try to forecast the upcoming game using the Prize Picks projections to give us some insight and some talking points. But here's the thing. If you type in the Panthers right now, you type in the Saints, there's 0 projections right now. Not only have we not been interested in this game, Prize Picks is disinterested in this game. The entire betting community is probably uncertain, and this is not betting. This is daily irrelevant football sports. Or, you know what, is you probably, if they're probably sitting here going, I wish we could put a Prize Pick on Jim Harbaugh versus Steve Wilkes. That would be a more interesting pick than what Sam Darnold is going to do in an unknown game in an unknown circumstance next week. But so we're going to look around real quick and make a Prize Pick tonight. I learned my lesson last week, guys. I picked Christian McCaffrey in the less than. I said this is I just thought, man, I don't know why. I was like, it was 70 rushing yards last week was his number. And I think it was against, I thought, man, they're probably going to dump it off to him a lot. They're going to I just felt like this was one of those games where the number was a little high. I learned my lesson. So they had like 70 yards in the first quarter. They're going against Arizona right now.
Can I offer you a slight concern on that front? They're only fighting right now for the number 1 seed in the NFC. I know that's their only. Here's the caveat. The only way they get it is if the Eagles lose to the Giants. This week, from my understanding, Jalen Hurts is going to be playing.
So my understanding, Christian. Ooh.
My understanding is the Giants are going to be sitting their starters because they've made it to the dance and they have nothing else to fight for. They've made it to the playoffs, and there's no benefit to winning that game for them.
All right. Well, you know what? That was enough to tell me.
So they might rest Christian McCaffrey.
Right. And that's what got me last week when I had some interest in your boy Trevor Lawrence against Houston, but they got out to such a big lead so quick. They just benched him.
Oh, but dude, you know what? Travis Etienne? Let me tell you.
But they have something to play for this week. What CK was saying. They have something to play this week. I think this is an easy number right here.
It
Travis
is,
Etienne,
but
60 and a half yards.
let me tell you
Mark it
something.
down more.
Travis Etienne this year, believe it, hey, call me a Clemson homer all you want, and you're damn right I am. Travis Etienne right now is one of the best home run hitters in all of football. And Tony, you should know you've had him in fantasy
I
all
picked him
year.
in
Like,
every league I had, bro. And I put a
dude,
big game. I got a lot. I always do this. I pick some things, and he's the one of the plays, one of the entries that I put in this year that has panned out. Every single one of my fantasy football leagues I have, man. And he's even when he peaked, I thought he had peaked like 6 weeks ago, and he didn't. That's the thing is he's had this second burst right now, which is getting hot. That makes a special season. So right now,
Tony,
what
have
you
you
have,
actually like
I've
have
watched
you
it.
watched him this
Yeah, I've
season?
watched them.
Dude,
I've watched
he's
them.
like he's like Alvin Kamara with the rocket booster strapped to his back. Dude, he
I don't
hits
know.
that
He's
hole
not that
and he
fast in
just
comparison to
runs.
Alvin Kamara.
Dude,
You forget
no,
how
no, no, no,
fast
no.
Alvin
He
Kamara was
is
his
he
first couple
is
years.
so much faster than Alvin Kamara.
No.
It's not even close. Alvin Kamara maybe has better contact balance, but dude, I'm telling you, he does not have the breakaway speed that Travis Etienne does.
All right, so let's see this. I feel like the Browns want to
Cooper,
win.
that's a
So
good one.
yeah, the
And you know
Browns
what?
want to
People don't
win.
want to hear
They're
this.
trying to save face right now.
And dude, let me tell you, people don't want to hear this. You might not like him as a guy, but Deshaun Watson, the more he gets used to that offense, the more he knocks off the rust. Deshaun has been playing better and better. Hey, did you guys see the internet got all pissed off at LeBron James because LeBron tweeted out like a tweet in support of Deshaun Watson and that he's looking so much better? And dude, Twitter was just not having it, dude. Not liking him supporting Deshaun.
Yeah, well, we can guess that. Gosh, I want one
You
more
should see where
play.
he's at.
I want one more play. I like this is good right here. I think this is a money play right here. We're gonna go with
Oh,
this.
what about Jared Stidham? Less than 225 passing yards. They're playing the Chiefs.
No, they're probably gonna have to throw the ball a bazillion.
What did he do last week?
I tried to play the less than on him last week, and he fucking crushed it. He had 365 passing yards.
Wow.
Against the 49ers.
Yeah,
Against the 49ers. I'm not interested in. I tried that last week. This one right here, I could see the Vikings trying to bounce back. I could see that one.
Dude,
I don't fuck with Kenny Pickett anymore. Don't want another Baker Mayfield joint. I think this is my play right here.
Q6 has Trevor Lawrence over 240 versus Tennessee's poor secondary.
Well, I already got Etienne there in that. Do you
Take
think?
both of them.
All right.
Dude, I'm telling you, the Jaguars right now.
Look at this.
Dude,
4 pays
balling,
10
man.
times your money. All right. Here we go. We're going all in, baby.
Hey, hit that.
This is
hit
it.
Hit that.
Uh-oh.
Make sure you use the promo code C3. Look at that. $20. If I hit these 4 prize picks, going to pay out $200 playing daily fantasy football sports. Cody, let's go on to the next part of the show. I got to take this down. What do we got left? Have we talked about everything? No, we got some other couple of things. And then we got to get these calls. Good Lord.
We got some other things. Yeah, we definitely got to get to the calls. DJ Moore, for 5 years here with the
welcome
Carolina
to the
Panthers.
club, DJ.
Yeah,
welcome to the club. I mean, we feel the same way.
It's a feeling that I don't want. I don't want to keep getting used to. And I understand him, man. Like, look, I feel so bad for DJ. I mean, yeah, I know he gets paid a lot, but that's not my point, man. I'm saying from a wide receiver position, he's such a good wide receiver that has had so many different quarterbacks over the course of, a very short amount of time. it's hard not to feel bad for him, man, because you think what would his numbers, what would his stats and accolades looks like if he actually had a quarterback that was more consistent and that was able to consistently put the ball in his hands. I think he would be a much bigger name than he is. I'm still hopeful that that can happen to him. I'm happy that we didn't trade him, but yeah, man, you just hope that DJ Moore can eventually get some good luck out of all of this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, we
Yep.
wish we would get some good luck out of this too.
Straight up. And
I mean, to be fair, he has had
right.
some good luck here with Sam Darnold lately.
yeah,
actually,
and
good
that's actually
segue. It was a good segue. This
perfect segue.
game, like Chris Mortensen said, DJ's most impressive game is, and I don't know, is somebody with should prove me. I guess this is the internet loves to prove people wrong. So here, prove me wrong. This was DJ's career game this past week.
Yes.
Right? Prove me wrong, internet. Maybe make me popular, but that's my take. Is DJ's career game this past week. And like you said, CK, there's a little chemistry there between Sam Darnold and him.
Yeah. I mean, there's chemistry now. And Sam, I mean, again, not to go back to the Harbaugh, I just think that connection with Sam Darnold and DJ Moore, I think is an appealing one. And if I'm DJ Moore, I see the resurgence of Sam Darnold as a positive one for what I want to do moving forward. So,
yeah, and
341 yards, Cody. When was the last
Yeah.
time you saw a quarterback for the Carolina Panthers throw 341 yards and 3
I
touchdowns?
know,
Like, I
dude.
mean, just look at that stat line. That feels like it's almost like this is a counterfeit.
Bananas.
I feel like this is a
Yeah, we're in
counterfeit
the
graphic.
upside down. Yeah, we're in the upside down, man. We're in bizarro world. We're in mirror world. But look, this is why I've been so vehemently on Sam Darnold's side, because I think you have to, man. The one season that you're finally able to give him decent pass protection and a decent running game. On top of this, Sam Darnold is the only quarterback that has played for the Carolina Panthers this year where the team failed to get the run going and Sam didn't fall apart. Baker Mayfield and PJ Walker this year fell to shambles when the Carolina Panthers were not able to establish a rushing attack. So the fact that Sam Darnold has continuously elevated his performance week in and week out, that says something to me, man. And you have to give Sam Darnold credit for that. And I don't care who the next head coach is next year, be it Steve Wilkes or Harbaugh or whoever, man. If Sam Darnold is willing to come back on a discounted contract, I want Sam Darnold to be a part of this team next year.
If you
And I think any coach would.
if you don't give him that credit, you should be canceled. You should be fired,
Right.
folks. You
On the
better
face
have
of the
that
earth,
opinion.
canceled.
Nah, it's
Absolutely.
like actually incredible. It's like what an incredible story. Like is I think that Sam Darnold, if he could somehow have a good season next year, I don't know if it's here or somewhere else, like who, I don't care where it's at. He should be comeback player of the year.
Yeah.
But you have to like give him some COVID leeway for these last 6 games or whatever, because I think they're gonna be like, oh no, you were all right those last 6 games, so you already kind of came back, so you can't come back.
And all
This
three of
It's
all
coming
three
back
of
from the
those,
depths of nothing, dude. If he comes back,
I
what
mean,
a
you're
story.
seeing you're seeing the talent on display that had him drafted number 3 overall.
He could be a
And
phoenix rising.
and it's not like we're trying to just dismiss the bad year that Sam had last year, but what we're saying is the team is much better around him, and he's playing better because of that better team around him. More importantly, those 3 touchdowns that you're looking at right there, those were dimes. They were not easy. They were
I
not.
think that
No,
one that they
you're
over.
wrong.
I think
No,
that one play by
all
play
3 of
got
them.
over. He came a little
No,
hard to that
all
one about.
all three of those passes were beautiful passes that were on the money, and they were in a perfect spot. They were not routine throws that, they asked Jimmy Garoppolo to do for the 49ers, dinking and dunking downfield. Sam was putting the ball in the air with a tight spiral. And dude, I think that you have to look at the physical talent that Sam has available to him and say, man, you can understand why people all along the way were willing to take a bet on Sam Darnold being a good quarterback. He was kind of shaken to start, but man, now that he has the beard, now that he has some things going in his direction, I think Sam has a lot more promise than we ever thought that he had.
I hope he gets an opportunity. And now I'm not saying that I think that he's going to be the guy here. I do hope he gets a starting job somewhere. And I only say that because the dude, like I said it after Sunday, when you talk about pressure, when you talk about, you can talk about having to play from behind. You can talk about playing against really good defenses, all that stuff. There's no more pressure than what Sam Darnold felt, knowing that this year was his prove it year. These games that he's been playing have been so important for his career and his ability to get a contract that's going to continue to allow him to play in the NFL, right? That is pressure. And the dude has showed up and the dude has been there. And those throws were impressive, right? They were on the money. And I'm sure he'd like to have that interception back. But, when you look at what he was able to do, I mean, on those deep balls, I mean, if you want to start talking about it, if you want to look at the past 4 games that he's played, how often he hits on the deep route, I'd guarantee he's in the top 10 as far as like accuracy on the deep ball, just this past 4 games, if you compare to other teams. Again, does that mean that he's the guy moving forward? I don't know. I just think that when you put him in the right situation, he was able to come out and prove some stuff. I'm not right there. I'm right there with you, G baby. I don't think I would like to have a QB on a rookie contract. We do have one on a rookie contract, by the way. If you ask Cody, but I think that Sam Darnold isn't going to cost an arm and a leg. He isn't going to be somebody who's asking for top 10 money. I think that at this point in time, it's worth at least taking a flyer on the dude while you develop another guy in the back end.
For me, I just want to clarify that when I say comeback player of the year type stuff, I mean the narrative of Sam Darnold.
Yeah,
I am not enamored with his play just yet. I'm not going to say like that. It's like nothing he's done right now is going to make me be like, I'm going to change my mind completely about Sam. I'm just saying this is that if he can overcome that narrative and survive this phoenix, he's a phoenix that rose from the ashes while everybody else fell. Cody, let's go ahead and do some cat calls, I think, unless we got any more pressing business. Good Lord, we have been jibber jabbering. Oh,
the last and final thing. I know it's the last bit, and then we ain't got nothing to take care of but the calls. We talked a little bit about the Detroit Lions being really upset about the turf conditions when we played them here at Bank of America Stadium. We said that they were being fined, and Shaq Thompson, he was asked about this. It was yesterday. This is what Shaq had to say.
To make a change. It's above my pay grade. I hope he listens to his players, but it's above my pay grade. You know what I mean? Yep.
Did the conditions improve at all during the game?
During that game? No, they didn't improve. It was the same way. Should have put a heater down or something. I don't know. You know what I mean? But it definitely was concrete on that.
So it was frozen turf. Like I feel like this is kind of a little like Shaq and them milking this story a little bit. Put a heater on it. Put a heater on it. So it was frozen turf. It was 20 degrees outside. Of course it was frozen. Wouldn't grass feel like concrete at 20 degrees?
Yeah, but I mean, listen,
something different.
Why is ours so markedly different from every other place? Like if our field conditions are so bad that our players are actively complaining about it, like I don't want our players playing on
Shaq got to talk for everybody.
Concrete field. I mean, dude, he's been the leader of the locker room. He's one of, if not the most. I mean, him and JJ Jansen are the most tenured players on this team. So I mean, he's been a leader since he's been here, and somebody has to speak out. Now you kind of joked he's out the door next year, and
Yeah.
maybe the Panthers do try and move on from him, maybe try and trade him somewhere else. I know one thing. I don't want the Panthers to play in a that is actively hurting them every time they get tackled. It's bullshit. And we were talking about we don't care if David Tepper pays whatever he has to pay to get Jim Harbaugh. Well, I also don't care that he needs to come out of his pocket a little more and make sure that the turf conditions in Bank of America Stadium aren't going to get his star players hurt year in and year out. I think it's bullshit, and David Tepper needs to fucking do something about
I
it.
tell you one thing. I've been hard on Shaq Thompson a lot on this podcast. Had such high expectations for him, but poor Shaq Thompson. He's the metaphorical black person you ask what black people think person. And that is like the one black person in the room with a bunch of white people. And they're like, so what do y'all think about this? What do you think about cultural appropriation? And Shaq Thompson is the player that has had to speak for the players, for Matt Rule, for all of this. They asking him about the field. He is the guy that's got to I am telling he's like, I'm trying to answer your question for all of us, but I can't answer it for all of us.
He's the voice of our team.
But he's also going to be gone next year at the same time. So while he's the voice of your team, he is he's the spokesperson. He is in many ways. All right. So if he is the metaphorical black person of players, and what I mean by that is the person that you have to speak for the entire group of people. So it's like if somebody said, if you said I'm from Asia and you were Chinese and you'd be like, well, what do you think about Vietnamese, whatever? You're like,
above my pay grade.
Right, where you just say, like, I can't speak for all of Asia, just because Ron Rivera is the fixer. He's the fixer. He's the guy that you bring in when he's the Mr. Wolf that comes in and cleans up the brains and this and that. Ron Rivera had to deal with Greg Hardy. He had to deal with the scandal of the team going through sex scandal and being sold, and they just trotted him out there, and he just had to answer all the questions. Then he goes to Washington, has to go through all of that mess with not only the Trent Williams to the Redskins logo to all of this. He's the fixer. He's the guy that you got to put out there, and he's got to take all of this. Shaq Thompson, though, is really coming hard on this field thing this year, bro.
Yeah.
He has not let up.
Hey, maybe you tackle on that concrete ass field. Maybe you might want to say something about it too. And again, maybe he does feel like, well, since there may not be a chance that he's here next year. Maybe
a
that
little
gives
premature.
him more of a reason.
Saying that.
Yeah.
We're saying that. That's a little. I know we go after it.
I mean, I'm saying if he maybe he feels like he is in the best position to say something about it because he knows that he doesn't have much at stake. He's proven his worth to the Carolina Panthers.
He was a Matt Rule fan. I don't know if I trust him at this point.
Well, he was the only leadership that Matt Rule had to lean on.
I know Matt Rule,
you can't blame Shaq Thompson for that, though.
Okay, is he just the guy that just is gonna? I don't know. You can't blame him for it.
No, but because how about this?
All right.
I mean, if he's the person that everyone on your team is looking to, that's true. It doesn't matter if it's Steve Wilkes or Matt Rule.
So then Matt Rule pimped him out then. Matt Rule pimped him out then because Matt Rule leaned on that connection a lot in his like, oh, I got the locker room. I got this. Shaq was always the guy he never said anything bad about.
Yeah, he's been a professional the entire time that he's been here.
A professional.
Right?
All right. Okay.
I mean, like, no, I mean, really, he's been like a true professional the whole time that he's been here.
Well, he's
And
not
like
been
I said,
unprofessional,
if
sure.
if our look, if our turf is some of the worst in the NFL, yeah, I want some players with enough nuts to come out and say, no, this is bullshit. David Tepper has enough money to fix this problem, and he needs to. And he does absolutely need to do it. So yeah, I commend Shaq Thompson
Okay.
for for
Yeah.
speaking up about it. But look, you've heard us talk.
Bold in your last stint.
Yeah, man. Listen, you've heard us talk now for what, almost going
2.5
on 3
hours.
hours. It's time to hear what the Panther fans have to say. Let's get into the cat calls. You can call in and leave a message at 252-228-5098.
So what are your thoughts on catcalling?
Yeah, it's pretty. You shouldn't do that to somebody.
And how did that make you feel?
Very uncomfortable.
So how do you think catcalling makes the person feel?
It feels good, like.
Who's that cat sitting in the back corner with his face buried in his nose? Who's that kid that can use one?
Hey, what's going on, fellas? It's Corey calling in. Monday, want to talk about the game, man. Tough loss for real. Shit sucked. And first thing I'll say is exactly what all the quote unquote team tanking guys, like the guys who wanted us to tank, like exactly what they said or was afraid was gonna happen did happen. But I'm not going to, now that we have a worse off draft pick, I'm not going to be in the boat to say that. I still enjoy watching the games. I still enjoy rooting for the team to win. Like, I don't want to ever feel like upset when my team wins. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just not how I wanted to watch the games or how I want to feel watching the games. That's just me personally. So, say what I say. And a lot of people, put a lot of blame on Darnold and Wilkes. And, I'm not going to lie, leaving Mike Evans single cover the entire game, that's inexcusable. Can't lie to you. There were certain situations during the game that just kind of seemed to be mishandled. Mike Evans being the most obvious one. And, as much as I hate to say it, I don't know if Wilkes is ready to be a head coach or even if he just is a head, and there's something to be said about being a leader of men and being somebody who can, enforce your will and enforce a culture. But also when we're talking about the schematics of football, does he leave a lot to be desired in that aspect? But for anybody, blaming Sam or saying that Josh Norman should have played more, cut it out. Like, please, bro. Josh Norman looked like my fucking uncle out there. No disrespect to the guy. Shout out to all the work he put in the league, especially for the Panthers. But my man, he looked like he's been drinking Bud Light for the last year. Like, he gotta stop it. What was he gonna do against Mike Evans? Cut it out. Sam Darnold, was he perfect? No. But this was for sure the best game he's played for us. He put us in position to win.
Yeah.
3 plays beat us, and it's an embarrassing way to lose. But we're not a great team. I would have liked to make the playoffs, but now we can actually, start focus talking about the draft. But I'm going to reiterate and say I'm not mad that we didn't get a top 5 pick or top, because I think Stroud and Young are good. But I don't think they're going to break the world open, just anything like that. But again, we're beggars, can't be choosers. But shit, man. Oh no, good game, entertaining game, tough loss. Happy, keep pounding though. Appreciate y'all.
Keep pounding. Appreciate you, man. Great call. Yeah, look, a lot of the stuff they brought up is what we're dealing with. A lot of the quarterbacks in the draft, we don't know if they're world beaters or not. Steve Wilkes is going to be an interesting thing going forward. He has so many defenders, now. And listen, I know we're talking about Harbaugh all night, but I don't think any of us on this panel, correct me if I'm wrong, boys, none of us are going to be upset if Steve Wilkes is named the head coach next year. Like, give him a chance to show what he's got. I do agree with Tony, though. Don't just do it for a year and then fire him next year. You know, like, if you're going to give him a shot, give him that shot in full. And by the way, I posted a poll in the YouTube chat room a while ago now. Who the next head coach of the Carolina Panthers, Steve Wilkes or Jim Harbaugh? And Jim Harbaugh is winning with 69% of the vote. Nice. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, man, a lot of people are enticed by this Jim Harbaugh news.
All right, next call.
What's up, guys? Chad down here in Charleston, South Carolina. Just calling to chime in on the state of the Panthers at this point, not making the playoffs, drafting most likely 8, 9, or 10, locked in pretty good, I think, maybe even locked into 9 at this point. But since about week 2 or 3, I've been saying this kind of worst case scenario. We're at the back end of the top 10 and did make playoffs and still have a quarterback. So I know that Darnold has graded out better recently, but he's not the quarterback that takes where we need to go. So at this point, we're looking at probably missing out on the top 3 quarterbacks at 9 or 10. And I'm leaning towards, hoping that we just take the best available at 9, get a stud player somewhere. I really like Quentin Johnson at wide receiver as potentially a franchise guy. But anyway, thoughts on that? Do you roll the dice at Anthony Richardson at 9 if he's there, which I think he will be, but I don't think Levis, Stroud, or obviously Bryce Young will fall. So curious on your thoughts. Appreciate the effort the guys gave to get to this point, but I still think we missed our opportunity early in the year to trade some more assets, get more picks, and kind of start this thing over with a franchise guy. So anyway, like to hear you guys' thoughts. Thanks for the show. Bye.
All right, man.
I think there's a possibility that Will Levis or Anthony Richardson could be in contention for that first pick in the draft. It's not necessarily what I would do, but if you look at the recent trend of teams taking talented quarterbacks with the big time arm talent, the big time, guys like Will Levis and Anthony Richardson, they have that. The problem is you're going to have to justify what you saw their film. Some of the inconsistencies, the overthrows, the lack of production in the SEC. Richardson was only a 1-year starter for Florida. That's why a lot of people thought that he would go back to Florida. That didn't happen. Will Levis seemingly regressed this past season compared to the year prior. So I don't know, man. It's going to be hard to get a read on where these quarterbacks are going to go until we start to get to the combine and we start to get to the pro days and the Senior Bowl, which Will Levis is going to be a part of. That's definitely in consideration. And especially if we have a new head coach, yeah, I think the chances probably go up that they do intend to draft a quarterback. But I'm still on Team Matt Corral, damn it. And you're not going to pull me off of this hill.
Right on. All right, next call.
Hey.
Oh, shit.
You know who the fuck it is. Booyaka! According to sources, Jim Harbaugh has made it be known that he's had a serious interest in the Carolina fucking Panthers head coaching job. Damn. And then we find out that fucking David Tepper has talked to Jim Harbaugh about our fucking head coaching position. Damn, that's quite awfully funny. Light bulb off in my head. Oh, and once again, you know who the fuck this is. Damn, David Tepper. Just days ago, we were eliminated from the fucking playoffs, right? Or eliminated. Let's just say eliminated from everything, right? We was eliminated. And just days after you contact Jim Harbaugh from Michigan. You know what that lets me know? That motherfucker wait for us to get eliminated from the fucking playoffs. David Tepper couldn't wait to make that phone call to fucking Jim Harbaugh, man. Jim Harbaugh has been my number one fucking head coaching fucking. That's the motherfucker I wanted, bro. But I got all these fucking haters, these G-baby haters, calling me out saying I don't know shit. Well, guess what, y'all? Fuck y'all, bro. Because you don't make a fucking phone call days after you get eliminated from the fucking playoffs. You don't make a phone call like that if you ain't fucking about your fucking business, bro. That's a big fucking deal. So all the motherfuckers that wanted Steve Wilkes back, well, shit, y'all better get your fucking tissues ready. Y'all better get the fucking tissues ready. I said I'd be okay with Steve Wilkes coming back. If he's a fucking secondary coach or a defensive coordinator, that is it. That is it. But that says a lot for Joe Persons to fucking put that report out. With us having still one game left, damn. So you know what that lets me know? There's no reason for us to win this motherfucking game coming up. Because we can jump to as high as 6, pick 6. Let's not fuck this up. Because New Orleans is known for fucking us over. Yeah, I got a lot to fucking say. Because Jim Harbaugh is the epitome of what I want as a fucking head coach. Been to multiple NFC championships, been to a fucking Super Bowl, has had multiple high-scoring offenses, and has multiple top-of-the-flight fucking old-school, blue-collar fucking defenses, bro. Jim Harbaugh, you're my fucking man. If we get you, I'm fucking back. My heart is fucking back.
What do you think G Baby does after?
You know what fuck this is, and I'm calling back. I'm calling back.
What do you think G Baby does after he walks out of that room? Like, where do you think he's at? Like, he could just be
Smokes
like
a cigarette, dude.
Oh, really? I think he could be like
just like after he had an orgasm, dude. Just like
or something, or like he just like walk out with a shirt and tie somewhere, be like, hey, well, welcome to whatever. My bad is in that room crushing it. G Baby.
G Baby's the man. He's passionate. Look, he likes who he likes. He dislikes who he dislikes. He wears his emotion on his sleeve.
He's been saying Jim Harbaugh, though. He's been saying
Yeah, he has. No, he 100% has. And look, could you imagine if the Panthers all of a sudden started making moves that G Baby loved? And that way, every
the best shit ever.
Yeah, dude, that
they
way
would
Jim
hire
Harbaugh
him. They would hire him as like their
and then G
Midwestern urban consultant,
being like, "I love this fucking team. I love our fucking players. I fucking told
fuck
y'all
them NFL."
This is going straight up from being someone who is perceived as the ultimate hater to being like the ultimate fanboy.
Let's get us Jim Harbaugh. Look, let's get us Jim Harbaugh and let's win a playoff game and we'll get positive
G Baby.
Positive G Baby.
That's the timeline that I want to live in. I want to see positive. I want to see
imagine someone
pumped up G Baby.
People get mad at G Baby for being insufferably negative. There will come a time if we win and Jim Harbaugh is the coach and some of these things happen like this, Cody, that he will be unsufferably positive. Like he'll just be like walking and we'll be like, well, Harbaugh could have done this. And be like, shut the fuck up. Best
right. Just be avidly defending him. Dude, that I'm telling you, that's the timeline that I want to be a part of.
Me too.
So it needs to happen.
Me too.
It needs to happen.
I love it. Great. CG Baby. I don't care what anybody says. He mug is good for our podcast. He gives us discussion. The chat goes nuts. G Baby lets a little steam off. That's what this is for. 252-228-5098.
I feel like his life is probably a little bit better with these.
What's up, C3?
These calls. It's like we're his
Anthony
free therapy.
From Charlotte.
What up, Anthony?
Still getting over this virus that's going around. It's terrible. But end of season thoughts, because next week doesn't really matter. Just in terms of, for draft position, yes, but not in terms a meaningful game. I first want to say thanks to Steve Wilkes. Whether he's the coach moving forward or if he's not, I hope he ends up getting a job somewhere because he's shown that he can lead men on the field. He's a great locker room guy. And, you know, he turned around our season. He made it interesting for us. Or, you know, I mean, thank God Matt Rule wasn't here. It would have been the same season. So I want to give props to him. And I want to give props to all our young stars who continue to grow and develop. You know, they're the core pieces of this team, and I hope we can build on what we have as a foundation here. And second, I want to thank you boys, man, like Cody, CK, Greg, Tony. Y'all are awesome. I mean, I found this podcast about a year and a half ago, and I haven't looked back since. It's been awesome. I love the community. Love y'all, man. Thanks for all the work you do. I mean, it really brightens my day every time I get to go on the show and, you know, call in and watch the Tuesday show. It's just a great community, and it's a great way to, you know, interact with the people. And yeah. And the third thing I want to say is there is always hope. You know, like I guess I was a little sour in my call because I was just mad that we lost, but there is hope. I mean, whether Sam Darnold's the quarterback, whether it's Matt Corral, whether we draft a guy, there are some positives. We have an offensive line. We got 2 young receivers on the rise. Really haven't seen their potential because of the quarterback situation. I mean, DJ Moore, we know already. Terrence Marshall is great. So, yeah, I just wanted to wrap it up by saying that. And lastly, screw Matt Rule. He was the reason that this season started out bad.
Week, right?
And, yeah, I just wanted to call in and just give my thoughts on the season. You know, it was an awesome time. So, yeah. You already know, Panther Nation, C3, Anthony from Charlotte, keep motherfucking pounding, boys.
That's the call of the year.
Hell yeah. Anthony,
great call.
Man, dude. Shout
By
out
the way,
to Anthony.
check the 4 Horsemen chat. It's relevant.
Yeah, I already got you.
Of the year.
So, I mean, again,
2020,
I wouldn't put much behind any of this, to be honest. But Will Kunkel, the same guy who wrote the news, says in a conversation with Jim Harbaugh, the Michigan head coach, tells Queen City News, although no one knows the future, I think I will be coaching at Michigan again next year. I kind of think that this is
that means he's definitely, you know what, he's like, he said that from Tepper's Islands where he's with
he's also like Michigan
with
doesn't
the Glass
want him,
Onion Island.
Michigan doesn't want him doing this. He's like, oh well, won't he go to the NFL? But I don't believe it, man. Like I
Why
just
do you
don't
think he's
he
doing
has
that?
a lot
Do you think
more
he's trying to get money out of, like, what is the benefit for him to flirt with the NFL to the boosters? They'll just re-up his contract.
Probably.
Right.
But
I mean,
also, like, how do we try? Okay, I'm not trying to throw shade on Will Kunkel, but
he's reported both. News. This is nice.
Yeah,
cover your bases.
Reported both,
tweet
but
right
then he says this conversation was tonight and took place privately. Okay, but then
why would he tell Queen
you,
City
Will? Like,
News? What is he doing in Charlotte? Why is Jim Harbaugh so in
probably on a phone call?
Yeah. Okay, like that's crazy. Jim Harbaugh taking Charlotte calls out of the random.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's, you know, he's out of the college football championship. So, I mean, what is he doing with his time right now outside of scouting?
Would you just take a call from a local media TV station in Charlotte?
Why not?
If you're Jim Harbaugh right now, I would be either working on going on a recruiting trail. Why is he saying it to QC News? That's what I want to know. That's
called
at 11. Like the Vol guy says, at 11:30 at night. What the fuck are we talking about? Like, what are we doing here? This is dumb. I think it's dumb. I think
We'll
he
see.
probably
He
originally
must
heard
have,
something.
you know what? Kunkel must be like Kunkel must have a sister or something that is married to a Harbaugh kid or something.
Maybe.
So.
Like
I
there
don't know,
has
man.
to
I
be
don't
an
know how he
end.
has
There
all
ain't no
this
way he's
inside
just being
source.
like, you know what? I want to talk to Charlotte TV. A TV. Like who the fuck even talks to television anymore? I mean, I know he didn't go on TV. You know what I'm saying? But like
Right.
that's your news source is like your local. That would be like saying
It's pretty dumb to me though. Like, if you're Harbaugh, have
he's
any
trying to
of
get
these
money,
reports
bro.
been big enough that you're gonna call the local news station of the
Bro,
place
he
that's
is
circulating the
fleecing all
rumors?
these mugs. Think about
Yeah,
this.
I don't
He
do
has
this.
got this is he's trying to get two people to compete on taking him to the prom. Michigan boosters and a renewal of his contract there, which could be unlimited if you think about it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, the fucking stadium is unlimited. It's like a planet. There's 120,000 people or some ridiculous shit like that. 110. That and a bazillionaire in David Tepper are competing over him to go to the prom. I mean, he is gonna get the best. He's gonna get the lobster dinner. he's getting everything out of this. I love it. I'm all in on Harbaugh. I'm like G baby already. Next call.
What's up, C3? It's Raleigh Panther calling in here. Night podcast. Man, I just want to say watching that game last night was real hard to watch, and prayers go up for Demar Hamlin. But shifting to the Panthers, I called in last week, literally asking about Steve Wilkes and the future with him and the Panthers, and of course today all Panthers news was related to Jim Harbaugh potentially being a prime candidate for the Panthers, and I almost want to extend the same question I asked last week, and in that, what is it that you think Jim Harbaugh would bring to the table, and what do you think his stamp would be on the Panthers that would ultimately turn this team around? I'd love to get your thoughts on that, and I hope you guys have a great night. Peace.
Why would Jim Harbaugh, and let me make this even a more divisive question, why would Jim Harbaugh be better than Steve Wilkes?
Well,
I mean, he's got a track record of success in the NFL, and Steve Wilkes doesn't.
I think he knows what it takes to win on the highest levels. And I understand Steve hasn't got that opportunity with the teams. I understand that. But he is a proven winner. Harbaugh is a proven winner who comes from a football lineage. His father and his brother, highly successful. He has been successful himself. And you look at his ability to turn around quarterbacks, or not necessarily turn them around, but put them in a position to be successful. Andrew Luck was the #1 overall pick. He then took Alex Smith. He was successful. Colin Kaepernick, successful. He has been successful at every single level with multiple different quarterbacks. He was successful with a bunch of different quarterbacks up at Michigan as well. So I think that's really important. And Steve, for better or worse, just doesn't have that kind of resume to compare against him. Now, Steve understands the culture of the Carolina Panthers better, but are you really afraid that our keep pounding culture would be eradicated under Jim Harbaugh? I mean, this dude went to the 49ers. They have a much longer history and culture than us. Like, if anything, he might be able to re-implement that keep pounding culture more than anyone.
I love it. Well, I mean, great points. Let's go to the next call. Chuck from Elizabeth City. Let's go.
Hey guys, it's Chuck from Elizabeth City, aka Carolina Sports Guy. The main reason why I wanted to call tonight, I wanted to apologize for my behavior. You guys have been nothing but good to me, Tony, especially you,
You're
Cody,
good, Chuck.
Greg, CK. Y'all all have said nice things about me, and you've really taken time with my calls, and I love the podcast, the family, the community, and a lot of guys and people that call in. I really enjoy the banter back and forth. And first time I has been that angry over a game in a long, long time.
Understand.
And I had a feeling we'd lose. And it wouldn't be so bad, guys. I'm sorry. I'm going to say the one thing. If it wasn't for that bitch Tom Brady, I can't stand it. But, I mean, I guess that's life to go.
You're not wrong, Chuck.
But we did get some positives in this season. I saw some good things. We have these extra draft picks. CMC trade still sticks in my craw because I don't think we got enough. And I would have really rather taken less if he went somewhere else like in the AFC. I think it's going to come back to bite us in the butt one day in the playoffs. But needless to say, I feel optimistic and good. A lot of rumors about coaching. I know there's a few positions we need. But like I said, guys, I really mainly called because I just wanted to apologize. I let my temper, my language, and really, I wouldn't say I took it out on you guys, but I more or less just let loose on a platform that you've given me, and I had no right to do so. So thanks, guys, for accepting my apology.
Nothing but love for Chuck from Elizabeth City, even when we get riled up. Bro, we get riled up. Like that's part of it. So nothing but love from Chuck from Elizabeth City. Thanks for calling into the show. And just good points about the team, very informed. Let's just keep rolling through with these calls.
Sounds good.
What's going on, CB Nation? It's your boy Jay Anderson eating you up. I have something against a lot of fans that I see how they flip flop. Couple of weeks, last couple of weeks they love Steve Wilkes. Now they question him. Somebody on Twitter said that Steve Wilkes got our coach at that game against Tampa. And it's like, if you watch the game, Steve Wilkes didn't get out coached. Todd Bowles, what did Todd Bowles do to get out coached? To out coach Steve Wilkes? He absolutely did nothing, to be honest. Both of them had their flaws and stuff like that. And I just don't like the way our people just turn their backs on Steve Wilkes and stuff like that. Granted, every coach is gonna F up. There's some people in New England who still question Bill Belichick, and he won them six championships.
True.
So no matter who's the coach, you're still going to have them. You're still going to complain about it. And the Panthers could get a coach and they can win 2 Super Bowls and stuff like that. They're still going to complain about the play calling or something like that. So, stuff with fans is just. And some people are saying, like, he should have gone aggressive with Sam Darnold and stuff like that. Like, you can't go aggressive with Sam Darnold and stuff. You just can't. Somebody like Sam Darnold, we saw how he got aggressive and he threw that pick. So, you can't go aggressive with Sam Darnold. One problem that I do have is that I said it on Twitter, and I said it, weeks ago. I said, the Panthers need to get creative with their run game. It seems like it's always run up the middle. Sometimes you got to get creative. You got to throw some reverses in there. You got to pitch to the left. You got to pitch to the right and stuff like that. You got to get creative with your run game. That's why when we had Cam Newton, and I know people don't want to bring Cam Newton back up, but when we had Cam Newton, we had some better design plays. Plus, we had a quarterback that actually knows how to run and get us yards. Sam Darnold is not built like that. Can he run? Yes, he can run, but he's not that guy. He's not a Cam Newton. He's not a Jalen Hurts. He's not a Lamar Jackson type of guy and stuff like that can make those plays, or Josh Allen. So
that's not what you wanted him to be.
I just think that people got too hard on Steve Wilkes, and people need to just back off and stuff like that. If you want him as a coach, keep that same energy. If you don't, then that's fine. But don't just drag the man and talk about he got a coach. That's lame. That means you haven't been watching the game. You haven't been watching the game.
I agree with what you're saying about the out coaching, particularly at the head coaching position. I think at the end of the day, we should maybe talk about the continuity of coaching staff going forward.
Right.
Less about Steve Wilkes in many ways. Is my number one question would be, is Al Holcomb the guy for the job at defensive coordinator? And, Wilkes and them, I mean, I think Holcomb and them knew that they needed to be putting that safety over. I feel like they made adjustments. Maybe the players made mistakes, or at least that's what they made some innuendos or suggestions about, like, is that a safety was supposed to roll over and he didn't, whatever. So I don't know if we can just go on that one moment, these 3 plays, and say Al Holcomb can't make adjustments at all. But at on the other hand, too, is I want to point this out, is I know that you guys have tried, and that the media and everybody has tried to sell you that this team's identity offensively is a smash and like a ground and pound type game. And maybe that's like what the better part of our season is about. But Ben McAdoo, his natural inclination is not to do that, folks. He is a guy that has been on record for decades saying that you can create and manufacture a run game through the passing game. And what he means by like screens and some different things like that. So he's just not a traditionalist. I think the credit goes to McAdoo for kind of bending and getting outside of maybe his comfort zone. But I think I don't think McAdoo is, I'm not even trying to say he's a bad guy. I actually think is what he's done has been mildly impressive, moderately impressive, I guess you could say. But he's not the right guy, offensive coordinator, to have if you want to have that identity of being a 2013 Carolina Panthers team.
And like, can't we be fair about it? Like, you can be on the side of Steve Wilkes and want him to be the next head coach, and still say that it was probably better to have Josh and Keith Taylor. I mean, I know he's been serving coffee, or even the fact that he's on pass to Mike Evans, and he said that he should have changed out of that play when he saw that, and he said that the onus of that was on him. So you're allowed to criticize Steve Wilkes and say that there are reasonable criticisms and expectations, and there's unreasonable ones. And I think a lot of the ones, just speaking for us, that we have made have been very reasonable criticisms.
I think we totally have to delineate between 2 types of people too, as well. And I'm not trying to say one is bad or one's better, but what I've tried to always say is that if Wilkes would have won these games, he would have given Tepper no choice but to give him the job. There's a difference between losing this Tampa game and saying that Wilkes kind of kept the door open for another candidate to be the consideration than to say that Wilkes shouldn't have the job.
Right.
Yeah. And that's the delineation I just want to make. And I hope I use that word correctly.
And we're still going to have to interview people anyway. To be in compliance with the Rooney Rule, we are going to have to hire people, or we're going to have to interview people from outside of the organization. So,
I feel like Steve Wilkes is in a panic room, that the door hasn't shut all the way. And like people who are trying to get in the panic room, like say zombies or something, trying to get in, and the door's open. You know what I'm saying? It's closing so close. It was so close. And the closing is him getting the job, like safely being in the panic room. That, is just the loss. And it's something, it might be unfair. He might be trying as hard as he can. That loss against the Bucs was another finger creeping through the door.
Sure.
Weird analogy. Sorry, I started watching with my daughter this stupid show. Well, not stupid show, Black Summer. I've already watched it once, but
no, you're right though. Steve Wilkes left the door open. The door is open. He's had a good season that's had ups and downs, and to accurately assess his season, you have to speak on all of those. I think a lot of people want Steve Wilkes to get the opportunity. If he doesn't, I mean,
Can I
what can we say? You know?
Can I tell you my secret subconscious fear? It's like the one I
sure.
Is that secretly I know that Will is great and this and that, but it's just another. How many defensive coaches have we had? How many decades are we gonna go? Like, imagine. All right, so this is that I feel like you got to give Wilkes 3-4 years, right?
Sure.
I mean, like 3 years. Say 3 years. Let's just be 4 would be generous, but say like 3 is the number that you should reasonably assume that you're going to give to the guy. If he's not the guy, or say he has one winning season, we're in 2030 before we're hiring our offensive coach. It's just 35 years of defensive coach. I mean, it's just, I know it's a silly thing. It's just almost me just wishing, and it's probably going to come back and bite me. It's probably going to come back and bite me.
We have been asking for this forever, to upgrade the Panthers offense in a way that looks like we belong in the year 2000 going on 23. You know, we are 2023 now. So, yeah, to be able to update this.
Like we
this
would take
offense,
a 2015 model.
Right.
Yeah, and that's another thing, man. If you were unhappy with the way that Ron Rivera ran the football team in his final days as a coach, then I feel like a lot of the philosophical differences that we had with Ron Rivera, we would also probably have with Steve Wilkes. Now, they're different men, so you don't want to just copy and paste one on top of the other. But you know, they do come from that same.
They're cut from a
kind of-
similar cloth.
Yeah, 100%.
A similar cloth, not the same cloth, but the similar cloth.
Yeah, 100%.
I almost wish that Matt Rule
Mule.
was a defensive. Yeah, I wish Rat Mule was an actual defensive coach. The only reason my argument doesn't kind of hold is I just wanted to, because Rat Mule was a nothing coach. He wanted an offensive coach or a defensive coach. That's the thing. But gosh, I don't know. Harbaugh is the sexy name for me.
What's up, guys? I want to go back to last year when we was getting ready for the 2022 draft. People were saying, don't get a quarterback in this draft. Get a left tackle. 2023 class is loaded with quarterback talent. Here we are facing coming up to the 2023 draft.
There's never a
and you
fucking
have
quarterback.
people like Cody. There's no quarterbacks that stand out this draft that's worth taking that high. It's funny how we changed
That changed a little bit, huh?
I agree with this call.
Wilkes
I like this
deserve
call a
to
lot.
be in consideration for the head coach? Absolutely. But it'd be naive to say that's our guy without talking to other or interviewing other coaches. Is he a nice coach for what he's done? Yeah. But you got to ask, was he that good or was Rule that much of a disaster?
That's my question.
Well,
so for those that wants to say, yeah, Wilkes is our guy and we don't need a quarterback, they just want to be stuck in the status quo. I mean, today's NFL, you either got a quarterback and you matter or you don't have a quarterback and you don't matter.
He's right. He's right. Good call. So good call right now. And where I do agree with him is that 2 years, this past year, actually, not 2 years ago, when we were all sitting here, the Carolina Panthers, actually for 2 years in a row, we had the Justin Fields draft, right? You had the incredible draft, which was the Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, Trey Lance. They told us it was going to be the most incredible, you know, I mean, it's the most talented quarterback, and they all went in the top. Zach, whatever the dude is in New England. Then they told us, Mac Jones. Then they told us, but they also said, don't worry, get ready, folks, because next year's class is weak, but the year after that's dope as fuck. So everybody told us going into this last draft, oh, Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett, this and like they might be the best of this class, but these guys are nobodies in comparison to last year versus and next year. And now we're in next year, and now all of a sudden this class has nothing.
But can I
They're a
defend
bunch of
myself for a
star
minute?
asses. I would say this is not everybody told us that Kenny Pickett and Malik Willis and Ritter and Corral were okay, but not the most talented class next year. And now we're in next year, and everybody's saying next year.
Yeah, but listen, there's a reason for that, though. You have to be able to update your opinion based upon at the end of the year last year. A lot of those guys that you just mentioned, they have upside that you feel like you can project into the NFL, even though their stats maybe didn't speak at that necessarily, right? And everybody was saying, "Oh, it's a bad quarterback class. It's a bad quarterback class." Yet people are talking about this quarterback class like it's somehow different. You have two elite prospects at the very top of the draft in Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, and both of them, even though they looked good at the end of the season, they have real question marks that NFL talent evaluators are going to have about their game on the next level. Like that just it is the simple truth of the matter. I mean, if you're looking at guys like Will Levis and Anthony Richardson, well, you're going to be doing that you would have been doing in drafting a Malik Willis last year or in drafting a Matt Corral, guys that you want to see in a better situation be able to prove themselves. So again, and I know it's cliche, but if you look at Drake, you look at Caleb Williams, like the physical skill set that they have and what they can pair together. I'm sorry, I just don't think that the guys in this class are necessarily representative of what they're going to be viewed as coming out of college next year. So, you can't disregard a season of bad football from a quarterback. Like you can't do it.
All right. As Malik Willis watches Josh Dobbs with no eyebrows start this week, and Zach Wilson is going to be cut.
No, he's not.
That's what I saw. I mean, it might have just been a story that was trying to get you to click. They were talking about the Jets being ready to release him.
People are tired of it, man.
Man, boy, they got tired of that boy quick. Next call.
He just needs some time.
Hey guys, I got a question for you or a statement. I keep hearing people talk about maybe Steve Wilkes would be a defensive coordinator for another head coach for Carolina next year. That's just disrespectful. I mean, imagine you or Steve Wilkes. Imagine David Tepper comes to you after all you've done for Carolina this year and says, Steve, I don't like how you're doing. I don't like the job you've done. I think I could do better, but I'm going to bring this other guy in and let him do your job. But you can stay here and be his little assistant. That's disrespectful. I mean, it's disrespectful to Steve Wilkes to ask him to do that. And that's disrespectful. And I mean, what if it's just Jim Harbaugh? Were you going to tell Steve Wilkes, oh, you can stay and be Jim Harbaugh's little assistant?
No, but that's anytime.
And tell me the lawsuit, the racial lawsuit, the discrimination lawsuit. Yeah, you reckon I won't give that feed? Oh boy. Folks, just think about what you say when you say it, or think about what you post when you post it. Just how disrespectful that is. Would you do that? Whatever job you're working at in your life, Tony, I know you're a professor at a college. Would you like it? Would anybody like it for your boss to come to tell you that they don't like your job you're doing, but because they're nice to you and they do like you, they want you to stay and be the new guy's little bitch? Fuck that. If I'm Steve Wilkes.
Pickle, thank you very much. Don't worry though, that's all just fan speak. That's all just fan speak.
Sure.
I mean, it's like it's unreasonable idea for another head coach to come in. Like, I mean, don't worry. That's the last thing you have to worry about. Really, what we should be worrying about is picking whoever it is over Steve Wilkes. Is that the right decision? It's not about will Steve Wilkes be the defensive coordinator. It's like you really just need to figure out, are you going to get a guy?
He's right though in that fans have this unrealistic.
Oh, and there's so many people that think it could, that
expectations.
say it. They can't think that. They can't
nonsense.
truly believe it. They
It
can't
would never
truly
happen.
believe it. Do you think the only thing I think with this is that with Wilkes and Harbaugh is, don't you truly think if we would have removed the 5 weeks that we have gotten to learn more about Wilkes from the equation, do you think it would be anywhere close to us being saying like, oh, Wilkes is from here before he needs a shot? I mean, I just don't want 5 weeks or 10 weeks. 10 weeks. It's probably 10 weeks at this point to override. I don't know. Yeah, you can't get. Is it too starstruck? Not starstruck. That's not the right words. Just don't want to be too
enamored.
Yeah, and sentimental about. I don't know. I mean, you know what? Look, I would be very happy if Wilkes. All I know is this: is if Wilkes is the head coach, we're gonna get a new offensive coordinator. It's not gonna be Ben McAdoo. I promise you that. I bet money is not gonna be. I wouldn't, but you know who I think it could be. Y'all were gonna get mad.
Bill O'Brien. Oh, I was going to say Bill O'Brien.
Mike Shula. Bring back some 2015 Carolina
He's the head
Panthers.
coach?
No, not the head coach. I'm talking about if Wilkes gets the job, he might bring Mike Shula in as the offensive coordinator. That's what I'm saying. Like, I could see that happening. Ben McAdoo. My whole point is this: is Ben McAdoo will not be back next year. Like, period. If Wilkes gets the head coaching job, it will not be Ben McAdoo. It just doesn't fit him. I think Mike Shula would be a great fit for a Wilkes type team. That's what I think, which is what. And I know you look, you make the faces all you want. All I'm just saying is this: is that the call was talking about. Yeah. Well, no, and you know what? We're gonna move on to the next call.
No, I mean, like, I'd rather move on.
What's up, C3 Podcast? It's Alex from Arizona. Yeah, man, my prayers out for Demar Hamlin and his family for sure. On another note, dude, I've been all day online on all these like Panther sites and Facebook pages, just going back and forth with a whole bunch of Panthers fans, and I just can't believe that our fan base is just a shit show, man. So many people just arguing, talking crap back and forth online, including myself. Some people think Steve Wilkes is God. Some people say he's complete shit. I think he's a great person, great man, and a leader of men, decent coach. But let's be honest. He's 5-6. He's been interviewing since Matt Rule left. And honestly, I just don't see it happening, man. Unless we want a mediocre coach just to give this man a chance. I'm tired of giving people chances, dude. Like, I'm just sick of it. I just want us to go get a good head coach, a winning coach, an NFL head coach that's got some kind of positive record, and a quarterback. Because I think we're a good quarterback and a coach away. I get it. Everyone thinks up and down and swears that Steve Wilkes is the guy. This is the guy. No, it's not the guy. If you go back and look at his record, he's got a 40% winning or 40% winning whatever probability or whatever. Like, if you go back and look at his complete record, I think this guy's like, I don't even know. I was looking at it earlier. I had a conversation with someone online, dude. I think he doesn't even have 10 wins. at all, and he's got like 20 losses or some shit. Close to these numbers. They're just way off. But I want your guys' opinion on that. You guys really believe that Steve Wilkes is the man for the job? Because I think he's like subpar. Maybe get us to the playoffs, no more than 10 wins in a season. You know, I do believe he's the next step up, but I still think he's medium grade. He's not going to get us to the promised land. I'm looking long term. I want to talk about Super Bowl. I want to see us go deep in the playoffs. I just don't see that with Wilkes. He's very conservative. He's not a risk taker. He's not really an offensive guy. You know, we've already seen the defensive stuff from head coaches, defensive coaches, and obviously that hasn't worked for us. I think we need a change. I had an argument with a guy, too, online about, man, it's a long call, I apologize, but about, I was like, hey, if we had Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, do you think we would not be in the playoffs and be at the top of the NFC? And this guy was so delusional, talking about, no, I don't even know if it would make.
Oh, he got cut off. No, I mean, thank you, caller, and that's kind of what we've been discussing, CK. Like, he's mentioning all of the negatives that might go with Steve Wilkes being the head coach. Randall Riley in the chat pointing out 8 wins and 19 losses between here and Arizona. I thought it was 9 wins, but whatever. Here, there, or another. I do think that Steve Wilkes, he's never had that opportunity to continue to build the team that you want.
Sure.
So it's a lot of conjecture. We don't really know what Steve Wilkes is capable of, and you can make the argument that you might never know until you give him a legitimate opportunity to do so. Now, and this, as any head coach in the NFL, you're never guaranteed to get that scenario. Like, I mean, look at Nathaniel Hackett. Everybody thought he was going into a fantastic situation with Denver this year, and then it just didn't happen. And if you want to say, well, he was fired because of Russell Wilson being so bad, well, I guess you could say that. But at the end of the day, if you're Nathaniel Hackett, you think, well, I never had a legitimate quarterback to compete with. I thought Wilson was the guy, and he wasn't. Steve Wilkes can say almost the identical thing between Josh Rosen in Arizona and
You could
Baker
even say it
Mayfield
with
and Sam
people who
Darnold
had
in
the
Carolina.
opposite. You could even say with the opposite, the guy from Miami. They started out like he's the wonderkin. You know what I'm saying? Like they started out, and I even picked them in the pick on this week on this radio show I go on, and we just pick heads up, no spread. I said they can't lose 5 in a row. Like, I mean, they're just too good to lose 5 in a row. I was like, a 3 in a row, okay. 4 in a row, 5. Guess what they did? They lost 5 in a row. And that's with a talented ass roster and this wonderkin coach. So you're right. You can say that all the time when a coach don't have no talent. Guess who's still saying it though? Ron Rivera. Don't have a quarterback. Anyway, 252. Well, let's just go to the next call. I won't even advertise the number anymore.
Sorry about that call, guys. I've been literally arguing with people all day. I had to let that one out, man. That's why you guys are here, right? Anyways, yeah, I want your guys' opinion on what you guys really think of Steve Wilkes. I really want to hear what you guys have to say to me and the rest of the fans that believe that Steve Wilkes is the man, because I just don't. I'm sorry. I see him as a defensive coordinator, assistant head coach, not a head coach. Thanks. Later, guys.
One thing I would just point to people, this might be my hot take for tonight. Making the people that say let's bring Steve Wilkes back as a defensive coordinator, which we've already said is ridiculous. I think that Steve Wilkes arguably has a better track record as a head coach than he does as a defensive coordinator. He had 1 season as a defensive coordinator. It was all right. I think what he did this year as head coach is a better performance as a head coach than what he did as defensive coordinator. So but what I guess I'm trying to say is I don't know if I've seen enough from Steve Wilkes to just say he is a better coordinator than a head coach. Some people are better coordinators than head coaches. I don't know if he is this like guru of defensive coordinators. I think maybe his lane and his specialty is the leadership role.
Right.
I think that he's been a better head coach than a defensive coordinator, resume to resume, year to year. That's my hot take for tonight.
I mean, I can't really argue that, to be honest with you. I mean,
he had the 1 year, when he was it 2016? It was 2016. He was the defensive coordinator for 1 year for the Carolina Panthers. 2016, and the defense was just,
I mean, it was blitz heavy and it was okay. And I think it looked better than it was that year.
Yeah, they weren't that great. They weren't that bad. And we also celebrated him for making something that was not that great look better than it was.
Here's a good litmus test for what we're dealing with. If we don't hire Steve Wilkes as a head coach, who is?
Damn. Well, next call. I mean, like, that's a damn.
I mean, that's just if you think about it that way. I mean, that's my thought, and that's where I've loved what Steve Wilkes has done. And you could go back and pull the VOD and try to pull receipts. I will openly admit I was hyped for him.
You're right.
I'm like, he is my coach. He's going to be the head coach moving forward. This is my dude. This is my dude. This is my dude. Right? The season is over. We're falling back down a little bit. The high is starting to wear off a little bit. And then that's why I said Sunday again. And so for those that are new in here to the chat or maybe listening a little bit later that didn't hear me say this earlier, we're grading him on the Matt Rule scale as opposed to what a good head coach is. Right? And so I'm not saying he can't be a good head coach, but we've got to keep in mind he went from being the secondaries coach to being the head coach. All right. So I'm saying in comparison to Jim Harbaugh, I don't think that Steve Wilkes is going to be on the same level. He might be able to be there. I don't know. And I'm hoping that the dude does well. But at the end of the day, I just don't know what to expect from this guy. And that's where I'm
going to hire him. Wow.
Right.
That's a tough question. Answer it, folks.
Yeah. I mean, if that's the case.
Like literally answer this. Is there going to be 5 jobs probably open in the NFL? 4 maybe. And who are the names? Like, look, we ain't talking about Eric Bieniemy no more. No one's talking about him anymore.
Right.
No one's talking about Joe Brady anymore. Right? Is this and that is, I think the names that we are missing right now in this conversation are D'Amico Ryans. A lot of people like him. I don't know why. I don't really get it. Is that, look, Robert Saleh's just over at New York, putting together good defense, not winning no games. And the other is, since Dan Quinn, nope. I like their offensive coordinator more, and some people are into the Detroit offensive coordinator, Quinn Dorsey, but like really the name is Jim Harbaugh. But even those nobody names I gave you, would Wilkes be outpacing them for a job? Will Wilkes get imagine if the Texans hire Steve Wilkes? What if the NFL just punished the Texans for everything?
I don't know that he's that bad where you say he'd punish them. Like, and I'm not saying he'd be a bad
they
coach.
Get the Lovie Smith. They just like, hey, here, black coach, go to the worst team, worst roster.
Well, you know what's funny? You know what's funny about that with the Texans? The last 2 years in a row, they have hired a black head coach.
Yeah.
So
I know.
They fired the one guy after 1 year, and they're already talking about firing Lovie Smith.
Yeah. Oh no, they're going to. It's almost like the NFL owners colluded and said the Texans just have to take it for everybody.
Well, it's like you think that they're doing. I don't know, dude. The Texans are a dumpster fire. We can so easily beat the Texans.
We're close. We're not that far.
What's up, guys?
What up, Nick?
Well, even though I kind of saw what happened on Sunday coming, it's still doesn't make it sting any less. At least we looked competent. At least we gave it a solid effort. I understand where Steve Wilkes is coming from in the aspect of he was trying to play conservatively, but I'm sorry, man. When you're going up against one of the best wide receiver rooms in the NFL and you are down your top two corners, like you have to play hard. Okay, you have to go for every single chance that you have. You have to keep your offense on the field as long as you can. I get it. You turn over the ball in the wrong territory, okay, it's basically game over. But you gotta at least fucking try, man. There was a couple of 4th and 1s where it's like, I see where you're coming from, but man, like you really should be trying right now. So this is what you guys get to feel like whenever Tom Brady knocks you out of the playoffs. So guys, this is the first time I've been on this side. Now I completely understand why everybody hates Brady so much. Like, I already hated the dude before, but, like, fuck. Prayers up for Demar Hamlin. Okay. Right now, all that's important is him getting healthy. Him getting home. Okay. That's all that matters. Nothing else matters. There are already people talking about some other shit. And normally I would agree with these people. There's a time and a place. This is not the time. This is not the place. Once he's home healthy, have open conversations about it, but not now. But, well, boys. And unfortunately, I don't know what you guys feel about Steve Wilkes. If he had won this past weekend, I think it would have basically guaranteed him the coaching job. But with where we stand right now, I think he's going to have to win the last one to even be considered.
Yeah.
But then with all the news reports coming out today talking about Harbaugh and the Panthers, and it's like, there are some guys just fit systems. And Steve Wilkes fits here. And he might not be the best coach, but he's the best coach for us. Keep pounding this.
I respect the take.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people feel that way, man. Panther Nation's torn on this whole
Who to move
coaching.
forward with, yeah.
Yeah. And there's good, like, look, this is the deal. There are good arguments to be made on both sides of this. If you think that Steve Wilkes is the perfect man for the Panthers, who knows the culture, he needs another offseason, you're not wrong. If you say, hey, we've been there, done that with that kind of coach before, that kind of play style, we need a big name to be able to attract free agents, to get the best out of our players. They're not wrong either. Like, there are a lot of good points to be made, and that's what's going to make this such an interesting thing to follow going forward.
And I don't know what's right either. That's the point, is like all of these things could be true in their own ways.
Right.
And, anyway. Look, Joey called in 3 times. I'm only playing 1. 12:30 at night. So here's the thing, Joe, I'm going to play 1 call. I'm going to play my bastard son. If Joey the Blind Panther is still here, and you got 1 minute and 21 seconds, I think, for me playing my bastard son's call. You can tell me 1, 2, or 3 which call you want to be played. If you don't tell me that, I'm just going to play the most recent one, which is 3. Here you go, Kev. I'm about to be your bastard dad as you check my prize picking. Ugh.
Hey, this is White Chocolate Espresso. My thoughts right now on the coach. I honestly think it's between Steve Wilkes and Jim Harbaugh. And, I'd rather have Wilkes. If we get Harbaugh, I don't want him to have full control, because that never works out at all. Like, even with, Bill Belichick, it's not working for them over in New England. D'Amico Ryans, I heard they're bringing in. I don't see why you would hire him over Wilkes.
I agree with that.
I feel like
100.
it's, a Rooney
It's
rule.
a
I think
lateral
it's a
move.
fake
Or just a
interview,
lateral
quite
move.
honestly. And I think it's the real interview is between Harbaugh and Wilkes. I'm hoping it's Wilkes, but I have a feeling it's going to be Harbaugh. I have a feeling that it's going to be Harbaugh. I would like to give an ice up pick real fast. I just got back from Avatar movie. It was really good. I really liked it. I think it's better than the original. But I want to give ice up to people who bring their fucking toddlers into the movie theaters. Fuck y'all. Peace.
I can guarantee you there's some people in this chat he just iced up.
I mean, it is like if you bring a young kid to a movie, you
That's
better
the
be
worst.
You better be the person that's quick to get up.
Get out
That's
of there.
my
And,
thing.
yeah.
Is like you're the person that took the risk with the ticket, not the rest of the fucking movie theater. Like, so if your kid is being a problem for anybody, like you better get your ass up and take the kid on out. And you got to just suffer losing the ticket. You got to be trying to peek in from that little hallway a little bit. You know what I'm saying? You're trying to watch the movie from the side. That's what you're going to have to do.
Yeah.
You got to take it. I do think he's right about the Wilkes versus. Look, I think that any defensive coach would just be a lateral move.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that.
So you might as well just have Wilkes. You're either going Wilkes, like Quinn, lateral at the lateral down almost, but he's been to a super lateral. D'Amico Ryan's lateral. Good players. Give him good players. Give Steve Wilkes good players. He'd be a good defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
But so I think he's 100% right. All right, Joey the Blind Panther, he didn't chime in, so I'm gonna play his. Hold on, let me make sure. Y'all still here, man?
Mm-hmm.
Might be here. I'm gonna just play this call.
Hey guys, I'm just listening, going back and forth about Wilkes, and that he should have the job. That this one game shouldn't have whatever. What if that? What if this? What if that? You guys got to remember, it's just where we're at right now. We are 5-6. That's his record. If we lose Sunday, we're 5-7. He is just an average coach, guys. Realistically, he's going to end up being 5-7. Watch, 5-7. So let's say we started the season off with 5-7. Would you want that to be your head coach next year? Ask yourself that. Some people are so stuck on Wilkes because that rule was so bad and we were 1-6 that all of a sudden we go and become 5-7. Oh, this is the guy that's signed. This is the guy. This is the leader of men. And no, sign him. He is a great guy, and he could be a great assistant coach, backup coach, a defensive coordinator. But you could not tell me that he turned around this program. Okay, yes, he rallied the guys to play the second half of the season and he won a couple games. How are you going to name that your next head coach? I'm not saying he doesn't deserve a chance or that I'll be upset if they gave him, a season or two to just try him out until we continue to build. But he's just not the guy. And he's not going to get us more than 10 wins in a season. That's all I got to say.
They're on, man. There is. The people who are bringing this up are not bringing up baseless claims.
No.
No.
I mean, and we've all been on the Wilkes train. Like, I want to make this clear. There's nobody in this saying that Wilkes is a bad coach in general. I just think the ceiling for what you get with Wilkes, as opposed to maybe a Jim Harbaugh, is lower. He could be successful. It's hard to see where we go from here. He has not been given an opportunity. I am not using much of what he did this year as a reason that he doesn't deserve to be a head coach. I'm just saying, as a Panthers fan, do we want to go again with that experience and try to see if he can build a team when, we don't know what he's capable of doing, right? Well, we know what Jim Harbaugh is capable of doing when he gets in there and he's able to scheme. I mean, like, the success level is there. So nobody here is shitting on Steve Wilkes. There are probably people in the chat who want to talk about it, people in the calls who want to talk about how bad he was in certain areas. My biggest dagger in his resume is our biggest weakness over the past in our losses have been our defenses since he's taken over as the head coach. And he's a defensive-minded guy. That you've got to take that into consideration when you're thinking about this guy being your head coach moving forward.
Yeah.
Cody, carry me for like 2 seconds. I gotta upload this call. My phone died, so I have to play the last two. I gotta upload them into StreamYard.
No, you're good. I mean, look, Panther fans really need to prepare themselves because this is about to be what we're going to be talking about for the next couple months, man. Like, until we find out for sure who the next, this is going to be the debate that's going to continue to tear apart Panther Nation. Are you still on Team Steve Wilkes, or do we need to upgrade? I've also heard Shane Stitchen. That's the guy for the Eagles, right? He's the Eagles offensive coordinator, I believe. Benjamin Albright continues to put that name out there as though he would be a possibility. Again, there's all these rumors about who David Tepper wants and what kind of coach that he wants. And it's all just rumors now, man. And even thinking about it on some Game of Thrones type shit, you know that people in the organization have certain people that they will just flat out lie to and put out false information, like a disinformation campaign. They do it during the draft. They do it during free agency. They're trying to throw people off the scent as to what they're actually doing.
Right.
It is 12:39. So Joey, guess what? I'm gonna play your last call because it was only 39 seconds. 12:39, 39 seconds. We're gonna play.
I bet you it's just the growl.
Joey, we'll make up for you. We'll play it another time, and then we get stats, and then we'll do our ISO picks. Hopefully you can hear this.
It's Joey the Blind Panther again, aka
I can barely hear it.
How, if I could say something.
Oh, background music.
That I forgot what I was gonna say, but I'll just leave you with
I
this.
can barely hear him at all.
He's just wanted to growl. That's 12:40, Joey.
Wow.
12:41. Wow. All right. We'll get that other call. And
You're so dismissive of the growl that makes them howl.
All right. Can we hear this
Stats
call?
here. Let me remind you, or stats here, either way you look at it. Let me remind you, Harbaugh hasn't won any of, I don't think he's not won a Super Bowl. I mean, so here's the thing. Yeah, he might win you a couple playoffs. He might get you real close. You might taste it. But here's the thing. I don't think he'll finish. And for anyone to say that, why not have him come here? Because of course, he's going to be respectful of the culture and kind of forward it through. I mean, look what we just had to come off the back of. I don't think he'd do what Rule did to it, but the thing is, there's a non-zero chance that he might do something like that and try to redefine culture. With Wilkes, at least, you know what you're getting. You know that he won't redefine the culture. You know that he's going to forward the culture. We haven't really gotten a fair chance at seeing Wilkes. He didn't have the first 5 games, and even then, he didn't have the full roster in control at the beginning of the season. He didn't be able to make the off-season picks that he needed to make and alterations that he needed to make. The coaching situation, the rotation of the quarterbacks coming through that room. I mean, the thing is, Wilkes has not gotten a fair shot at this. For what he's done, given what he's had, he's done an exceptional job. You can't just throw all this away. Needless to say, Tepper, it's not going to matter because Tepper's going to get what's shiny and what's in front of him, and that's going to be Harbaugh. That's what's going to happen. I'm sure of it. I know it will be. But he'll be making another grave mistake, and I promise you, in 5 years from now, we'll look back at this moment, and I'll say, I told you so. But it is what it is. Anyway, keep pounding. Bye. Love. Stats here. Let me remind you, or stats here, either way you look at it.
Sorry,
Let me remind you,
I
Harbaugh
gotta
hasn't.
turn it off. Oh, I had to do it a different way. Great call. I guess the question is like, should you become? Are you enamored with Wilkes or not? The one thing though that he said Harbaugh hasn't won you a Super Bowl, and you brought it up, Cody. I think you brought like the best example is Andy Reid hadn't won a Super Bowl till he won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, and now he's almost universally considered the best head coach.
Well, 3 consecutive NFC championships at home with the Eagles. Like they just couldn't bang it in. You know what I'm saying? And then the stigma against him was you just couldn't fucking bang it through. And he went to the Chiefs and kind of got there, and they said the same thing in the beginning. You can't bang it. And then he banged it through multiple times. And then that girl was like, oh my.
Everybody thought that when he was the coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, that was going to be his perfect chance to show the NFL what kind of coach he is.
I mean, he did in a way. Honestly, he did a great job. He did a
but everybody
fantastic
said
job.
that he couldn't close it out. But look what he did with the Chiefs.
Just life. It's just life. It just either closes or it doesn't close. He was a great coach the whole time. That's my thing. He was a great coach the whole time.
Imagine if he's able to get that monkey off of his back about, not, always being the bridesmaid, never the bride or whatever.
In Carolina, bro, he'd be a toasted down.
In Carolina, and we've never had back-to-back winning seasons. Imagine if we can all accomplish our goals together. Dude, that's what the fuck I'm talking about.
Who would be better for the podcast?
Harbaugh.
Yep.
We love Steve. If you're a Panther fan, you love Steve Wilkes. No doubt.
You would get a bunch of former 49er fans coming up in this conversation.
But also think about the amount of people that have. Yeah, think about the amount of people that have respect for Harbaugh, and the amount of players that would love to come to Carolina and play for him.
I know that's selfish.
Yeah,
that's selfish.
It's better for everyone.
And guess what we would do every Sunday?
Stuff. No, you know what, Tony? You're wrong. It's not selfish. You're not being selfish. We have done this podcast with losing seasons for 5 years now. We need Jim Harbaugh to turn this shit around for us. Let's go.
That'd be cool. And the other thing is this. We've been talking about on this podcast about starting traditions for the Carolina Panthers. Easy one right out the gate. We're all going to the game in khaki pants. Everybody's wearing Jim Harbaugh khaki pants, Dickies from Kmart. We're going to have to go to Kmart. We're going to have to find the last Kmart on earth, buy some Dickies, and we're all wearing regular khaki-ass pants to the game. And we're all going to be doing it.
Dude,
the fans, it's going to be great. Bro. Do you know how fun? Do you know how many millions of fans would just wear a jersey and khaki? That's what I would go in.
Hey, how about this? Khaki pants might be some of the most comfortable pants.
Oh, stop. Now you're just catering to these people. That's what Harbaugh's signature. It's like homeboy with the no sleeves. It's like, the other rascal, New England, Belichick. Like Belichick's sleeves, Jim Harbaugh, and the khakis.
Look, maybe because I can't walk, maybe I don't have an accurate assessment of moving around in khaki pants.
Khakis aren't.
But dude, I just know that sitting down, chilling in a nice pair of khaki pants,
you look good, feel good,
comfortable as shit, bro. Look good, feel good, play good. I'm just saying, dude.
As my man said, so is Harbaugh unofficially our head coach already? He is on the C3 Panthers podcast. We brought into it, and guess what? Next week, we'll be having another head coach who is our head coach. Actually, no.
It might be Steve Wilkes if we destroy the New Orleans.
You're right. Well done. All right. I was going to say let's talk about the news, but screw it. We're not going to talk about the NFL news. Let's just do our ice up picks and get the hell out of here. 12:47. Holy cow. Love you guys.
y'all want to go first? You want me to go first?
Nah, I don't want to go
I've got one.
first because I got like 20.
Well, let's just do one.
Oh,
But
I
I've
know. No, you gotta stay up
I've
all night. I'm gonna do 27. No, go
yeah,
ahead. Go.
Tony's talking about wanting to get out, and he's like, "No, I got 20."
No, I don't have that many.
No, but no. Okay, so many of you have probably already seen this, right? So Michigan, JJ McCarthy's the quarterback for Michigan, and Tony really likes JJ McCarthy.
He's gonna be
He's
good,
talked
bro.
about him on the podcast.
He's gonna be
He
good.
is, and he has a hot girlfriend.
Oh,
He
count me
he just
in.
does.
I'm already in. I'm all in now.
Hey, you know who else is all in?
Who?
JJ McCarthy's dad, dude.
Oh,
Look at this. So look, they're sitting together at the game. That's the girlfriend.
okay.
That's the dad. I guess that's
Alright.
the mom right there.
Mom,
Watch his hand. He like cups the feel like him.
that was a little.
Wait,
Okay.
No, you're gonna watch it again, dude. So wait for it. Oh, hand goes on the booty. Oh, finger goes
Just
out.
a finger. Just a
Oh
finger.
no, he was touching some butt, baby. That's what that was. Dude, look, how about this? Very short and simple. If you're hanging around with your son's
Just
girlfriend,
grab it. Just grab it.
just grab it. No, man, don't. I would say keep your hands away from your son's girlfriend, and hopefully you won't go viral on Twitter for doing it. So yeah,
That's not
to
even.
him,
You know what? All right. Ice up.
he's
That's not
happy about
even
it. Look
even
at-
close to Urban Meyer's ice up. You know what I'm saying? That he barely did a fingernail. He did a fingernail.
Sure,
I
but
mean,
you also
On
know.
the phone too.
Hold on.
There was a phone barrier too. It's like that's like giving somebody a back rub while they're wearing
He
an
wanted to
armored
touch
plate,
that
like they're in
Dude,
Afghanistan wearing plates on their shit.
Dude did this at the bowl game where he's like sitting beside the star quarterback. He is the dad, and he's sitting beside his girlfriend. Like he didn't think he was about to be on TV. Like,
No.
bro, you gotta
Missed the B. Hunter said he missed the hole.
Dude.
I mean,
The
just
funny thing
go
is,
for the
the thing
full
that-
cup. If
the
you're
thing
gonna
that
do
sucks for him is it got on TV and he didn't even get the ass. He
it. I
just
know,
got the
he
phone.
didn't even get the enjoyment of grabbing the butt.
He got the phone. Even if you wanted to touch, he just literally touched the phone.
He didn't even get the back pocket, basically. He got the back pocket. All right. CK, you got one?
I did, but I can't remember it. So
All
you go ahead.
All right. Well, remember it while I do this one. And I
Let me
only
see if I
have
can pull
one
it.
because thank God my phone died. I don't even know how to ice this up. I don't know what to ice up about this, but this is just where the internet makes you feel better or worse about your life. Can you hear this? Oh, no, you can't because I double clicked. Oh, that Todd Bowles shit made me mad too.
Yeah, you can ice that up too.
This lady.
Can you hear that?
Yeah, we could hear it.
Okay.
All right, so I met this lady in 2008. We got married in 2011. We had our first child in 2011. We had our second child in 2015. We've been married for 10 years. We've been together for 13 years. We just recently found out we're brothers and sisters. All right, so.
What?
I just
imagine.
Here's the thing. Why the hell are you putting this out on? I would shut the fuck up.
Yeah, right.
I would not be saying if I found this shit out. I am never telling a fucking person about
That's
this.
my aunt.
So think about it. Think about what you just did to your fucking kids. You went on the internet and now you've just said like they have to live a life of knowing that they are a product of incest.
No,
Come on,
not
dude.
even them. Like everybody else that knows them. You're right. Ice up to that dad and that mom, that brother and that sister for putting their incest on the internet. Internest. Intercest.
Dude.
CK, if you got
I
one,
was
hit us up.
adopted-
And then,
Trying to find it.
go ahead. If you were adopted, I'm adopted. Only half adopted.
I'm just saying, if I was adopted and dating, I don't think I would, I would ever date someone that even looked remotely like me at all.
Not anymore. But luckily, with the DNA nowadays, like you could pretty much find out.
Oh, I know. You can't do anything. You can't kill anybody. You gotta be an alopecia. And Josh Dobbs is the only person that could kill someone right now. And someone will get that joke. I just got this calendar for Christmas though. It's like a daily calendar. So we're gonna tear it off to January 3rd, and it gives us a fact. Here's your Panther fact for tonight, and we're gonna give CK his ice up. The Panthers forged an early season. Today is the third. Oh no, now it's the fourth. All right, so here's the third. The Panthers forged an early season 3-game winning streak in 2020. Matt Rule's first year as head coach, but stumbled after that and finished with 5 victories at all. Why is that a fact on this fucking calendar? Suck. Here's your January 4th trivia. What team did the Panthers shut out in the 2020 season? Ooh.
In the 2020 season?
What team did we shut out?
That is the trivia question for January.
Oh, I Detroit Lions.
Detroit Lions? Did you get it? I don't know how to check.
You don't have the answer?
I do. You're right.
I know that.
20-0. Guess. You know what? Now I remember who was the quarterback.
PJ Walker.
PJ Walker. Well done. All right, TK, hit us up with your ice up pick.
Dude, I'm trying to find it. I
All
swear.
right. Well, then just ice up something.
I'm gonna ice up myself for not having one ready.
Okay. I don't know what else. Man, you want to talk more? You want to talk till 1 a.m.? What do you want to do, folks? My name's Tony Dunn. It's the C3 Panthers podcast brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com, where every Tuesday night we chop up the latest Panthers news and opinions all the way into Wednesday morning. We want to wish everybody a happy new year and thank you for rocking with us as we complete our 10th season as a podcast. When I say completed, we still got a few more. We're just like started in. Anyway, I'll tell you the math another time. But we're in the 10th year of doing this every Tuesday night. We got content coming out on Fridays. We've got the Saturday simulation. I'm about to make CK simulate the playoffs with me. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to force him to do it with me. And we're going to find some other things to talk about. On top of that, tomorrow, I've got we're going to have the beat check. I got a special guest queued up for us to talk about inside sources when it comes, not inside, sources saying the Panthers are maybe not as interested in Wilkes, potentially interested in someone like D'Amico Ryans coming on the air. We've got a lot of content coming out. My name's Tony Dunn. Follow me on Twitter at @cat_chronicles. Check us out on all the major podcast platforms. Please, it's very simple. Hey, I want to thank everybody who gave any donation. That is incredible. I don't want to ask for your money, but we appreciate it. You can be a C3 super fan, but there's one thing you do. Smash thumbs, subscribe. Make sure you hit the post notification button, that bell. Make sure that we go live. And check us out on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. It's very simple. Even if you watch us on YouTube, please just subscribe, hit that download. Those small little one number at a time is how we've been growing as a community. And one family member at a time. To my right, Cody Lash, my brother. How can they get after you?
Yeah, find me on Twitter at Cody Lack, CODYLAC. Every Friday at 7 p.m. It's your opportunity to be a part of the C3 Panthers podcast on the Friday free-for-all. The show for Panther fans by Panther fans. Join the show just like we are right now using StreamYard. And let us know what you think about the Panthers. Who did you think should be the next head coach? Are you disappointed with this season? Should we draft a quarterback? All those things you can talk about every Friday at 7 p.m.
CK, tomorrow I'll be hanging out with Mark Ryan just for a little bit. We're gonna upload a bonus beat check. Then I'm gonna hang out with Cody Lashley. I'm gonna make him hang out with me. CK, if they want to hang out with you, how can they find you on the intranet?
You can find me at the Twitters at CoDizzleAllen on most social media platforms, and obviously here on Tuesday nights, the post game, and also the Madden simulations. I sometimes pop into the Friday free for all as well. So come check it out.
Is that game worth buying?
Days Gone? I mean, I paid $12 for it, so it was worth it.
$12?
Yeah.
Oh, I must have been looking at that Last of Us one. That must have was more expensive. $12. Is it fun?
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
All right.
It's not a multiplayer game or anything, but
No, it's all right. It's all right. Trying to have fun.
Yeah.
Trying to have fun and ruin Cody Lashley's night as I draw this Exodus out. Take us out of here, Cody, please.
I mean, you sure you don't want to stay for another 30?
I will.
I mean, dude,
bro. Two
we
more
can stay here.
minutes. 2 more minutes. We make 1 a.m. Go. Let's get us out of here. Get the fuck out of here.
C3 Panther Nation. We gotta go to bed. We gotta do something.
Gotta go to work.
So, this has been another edition of the C3 Panthers podcast. And you already know what we do. Keep pounding.